Hey, y'all, Dude79 here. Probably hearing me in fucking robot voice. Or maybe it's clear. Who knows? Welcome, Dungeoneers. Welcome to another episode of The Shit Show. We don't know if the mics sound good. We don't know if we sound like RoboCop. I don't know what we sound like. Hopefully we sound good, but I'll probably go to shit during the show. I'm getting drunk. I've had a hell of a week. That's usually how it works when you come back from vacation. It's just bullshit. Thanks, Trick. I love you, buddy. Trick's my work buddy. He keeps me in good spirits. He knows when I'm down, and he comes over and records me taking a shit in the men's room and posts it on fucking TikTok. Because that's what my boy does.
What he does.
We'll be live in just a moment, y'all. Thank you, Al Blanco. We appreciate your support, brother. Be live in just a moment, y'all. Finishing a few things up, waiting for robot voice to kick in. And thanks to you, too, as well, Tricky, you sweet motherfucker. Oh, man, y'all are sweet as hell. Thank you, Jay Hill. Appreciate your support as well.
Thanks, guys.
What the fuck? I've been stuck for 15 months and you ain't saying nothing to me. Crash! I don't have to say anything to you. I do things for you, okay? Don't make me say it on there because we'll break TOS. Just a moment, guys. Welcome to another edition of Banter and Babble, a.k.a. The Shit Show. I'm your host, TheDude79, and joining me always, my esteemed colleague and renowned piece of shit, Mr. Fanboytone. What's up, dude?
Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Yeah, dude. I look, y'all, here, I'm just going to hit y'all straight right now, okay? I'm going to let y'all know right now. I don't know what's going to happen anymore. I don't know what's going to happen. The audio just continues to be unfixable.
And they won't even email you back anymore?
Oh, yeah, they're done dealing with me, dude.
Yeah,
they're done dealing with me because I keep showing them, like, this shit isn't working. This shit isn't working.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if the audio is going to go. We're just going to call it Banter and Babble and Robot Voice. That's going to be the new name of the show.
I mean,
B and B and R. Wait, RV. Oh, B and B and RV.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to call the show from now on. Just doesn't, nothing fucking works.
I'm down.
We did all these tests, and I thought I found the problem. I thought I zeroed in and had the problem like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, dude, I think I did it.
Well, they said, hey, here's
They
here's
said,
the
hey,
roadmap.
man, they said, here, man, run this test.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, it came back negative, or it came back positive, saying this is bad. And I was like, all right, well, what the fuck do I do now? So I went to Google, because Google knows everything.
Yeah, they do.
And I started searching certain key terms, like, what was going on when I got the test back, the little key terms out of that. And sure enough, something came back saying, hey, there's a fucking feature on Windows 11 on some of their newer PCs and laptops called, like, the GPU or accelerated hardware, whatever. I was like, what the fuck is that? So I type in GPU, and I go in there and find it. I'm like, oh, mine's on by default. So I'm like, oh. So I turn it off, and it says you have to reboot your computer. So I'm like, all right, reboot the computer. And then it turns back on, and I run the test, and it's like, hey, you're good. And I'm like, no fucking way was that it. Right. No way was that my luck.
Cool.
So I go back in, and I turn the accelerator back on, restart the computer, come back again, run the test. It's like, no, that's bad. Your shit's fucked up. I was like, oh, my God, dude. Turn it off, rebooted it, turned it back on, did another test, came back green. I was like, I fucking solved it. Solved it. And then the other night, before I did my Indiana Jones reactions video, I'm in 10 minutes in recording, 10 minutes in, because, we do different takes, trying to make sure we say what we want to say. And I go back and start listening to it, start editing, and about 3 minutes in, robot voice. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
I don't know. It sounds like
bullshit. Yes.
Well, Windows, for one, is, never optimized properly. Don't get 7 dungeons started, but, anytime they roll anything new out, like, you got to just wait for, eventually it'll fix. They'll figure it out.
Will it, though? Or do they know?
I don't know. It's PC.
They're like, we got to have 1% of people that just don't get what they fucking want. And I'm one of those 1%, because if I didn't have shitty luck, Tone,
you wouldn't have any luck at all.
I wouldn't have any luck at all.
That's right. That's fair. But
so if robot voice kicks in, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. The system sucks.
The good news is, though,
there is good news
that I want to talk about this real quick, because Drassen 7 Dungeons is excited about this. So this has carbon, by the way.
Dude, this is carbonized as fuck,
dude. This is good. This has got carbon.
It's carbonated.
This is his jackal holder level 2 pumpkin pie.
Dude, you nailed it. Bunch, I'm not even joking. Like the last time we had one of your beers, I was like, oh man, it was great. And then behind the scenes, I'm like, oh, this thing sucks, dude. I didn't, though. I was just joking. But this is like really fucking good.
This literally
is really good. Like, we were worried about carbonation. We poured it, I was like, nope, this thing's carbed.
It's got a nice little bite to it as well, too, which I didn't expect. But the marshmallow
that makes
it feel like that when you're taking a bite of it, that it's just a bunch of whipped cream on your pumpkin pie slice.
What were you really going to say? You said a bunch of whipped cream on your pumpkin pie. Well, yeah, you fucking pervert. I see what you're doing.
And we saw the actual photo of that getting poured out earlier. Thanks to editing skills.
I wish you guys would have went with that version on YouTube, but I understand why you couldn't.
Definitely enough spice, 7 Dungeons. So, yeah. So, definitely enough spice.
So, next weekend, I go up to...
is he going to?
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
This is like the first time the stars have ever aligned. Like, I don't think, Central Lake or Bel Air up there is ready.
Yeah.
All my buddies from high school, there's like 8 or 9 of us. We get together every year. We go up there. We get a nice house, and we just drink and do whatever. Go out to the lake and shit like that and all that. And my brother and his friends, they always go up, but we've never even been close on the same weekends. And about a month ago, I was talking to my brother, and I was like, hey, man, when's your guys' weekend? Is that coming up? And he's like, yeah, I think it's July 15th. And I was like, no, you did not just say that. And I was like, dude, when worlds collide, I mean, we're going to he's going to be running like 7 or 8 deep. We're going to be running 7 or 8 deep. We're at different parts of the lake, but there is, what's the name of that bar? The one that we almost got thrown out of like 10 years ago. Actually, we probably did, but they forgot about us. Lakes, what's it called? Dockside Bar. And so I think we're going to try to coordinate a meetup, and I just don't think Dockside's ready for it.
Nice.
They're really not ready for it. It's going to be cray-cray. Him and his buddies, like, I've known them since they were kids, and so like, and we just all are into the same shit. I know you guys got yours for Saturday. We have ours for Friday, because on Saturday, everyone else goes golf and they go play at like the Legend or some shit like that. So I stay back and just smoke ribs. And then when everyone comes home, I'm passed out drunk or off of Eddie's, and the ribs are just about done.
Fuck yeah. Nice.
But, no, yeah, we'll be on the lake on Friday. Hopefully, weather permitting.
So
but-
after a 4th of July amazing long weekend and some crazy fun stuff, now you have 2 weeks later, you have
You use the term fun loosely. It was a nice weekend until my foot just stopped working.
That's true.
So Monday night we go to a cookout and I only had like 4 or 5 beers. And you don't have, and that's not like I'm not playing it. I'm not, going under. That's what I was at.
Mm-hmm.
And I got home about 1 o'clock and my body was in tip shape. I'm like, I feel great. Feel good. And I get out of bed Tuesday morning, and I almost fall over because my big toe right beneath, I think it's a metatarsal or something like that. And, dude, it fucking hurts. Sensitive to the touch, I can't bend it either way. So when I'm walking, I'm basically walking on the right side of my foot because I can't put any pressure on it. It could be a stress fracture. It could be like something in the joints. So, I mean, that's cool. I always like that kind of injury before I go into a nice long weekend with some friends. So that's fucking cool. My wife's like, you need to go get x-rays. I'm like, the fuck I do.
Go get x-rays.
I know. I don't want that bad news, man, because I don't want to go up north with a fucking cast on my foot for some reason.
You're not going on the pontoon or, the golf. You're not going on golfing. You're not going golfing.
Feet picks or didn't happen. Oh, well, hey.
He's going to have a foot gina.
Yeah, so my foot is killing me. It's just been... And then you get home today, and the kids started their second baseball season. Now both kids are playing, and the games are much longer, and the practices are much later. And it's just like, what the fuck just happened to my life? Like, it's just a blur, and I'm achy. That's it. Time flies by, and I'm achy.
Decisions, man.
It fucking sucks, dude.
Die by those decisions.
I should have started streaming a long time ago when I had AOL. Could you think you could stream on AOL?
Justin TV, wasn't it, before Twitch was Twitch? Back in
was that AOL Netscape days?
I mean, I don't know if it was that far back. I mean, YouTube didn't even really technically become YouTube. I don't remember what it was called before YouTube off the top of my head, but YouTube
Take 2
didn't really
aspirin
kick
and
off
the jack.
till, like,
Oof.
early 2000s maybe.
I don't even know, dude. All I know is I'm old and my body hurts and I just don't have time on my laptop, my computer, nothing works here.
Correct.
So it's just like, hey, we're just, you know what? This is why I'm glad we have friends like Drastin. Just sends us beers to get drunk.
Is this a little boozy? Do we know? This feels like there's a little boozy because I already feel like I'm a little warm in the
It's got a
cheeks.
little bit of booze in it.
Yeah. Do we know? He doesn't know the scale of this. He's like,
that's
anywhere between
yeah.
like 6 and 12. Like, okay, good. Thanks, dude.
That's encouraging. Yeah, I really don't know what the ABV is. It could be 5. It could be 72. Who knows?
Right. Thanks.
Jesus Christ. YouTube's first video was the founder at the zoo. Huh. I don't know what that means, but that sounds cool.
Thanks, Blanco.
Tone, you got even better news. You've got good news.
I do.
You've got life-changing, great news.
I do. They said that
it's not herpes?
No, it's not that, but they said that the robot leg surgery is not going to be that expensive after all, so anybody start some shit, I'm just going to robot kick them.
Oh, jeez. To go with your gun, though, and make sure it has a holster for your RoboCop gun.
Drop it. So I did get my news this week that next Monday I will be closing on the house. So
shit.
Which then opens up a Pandora's box of things to do going forward.
Yeah.
So
the joys of home ownership.
Yep. First thing I got to do is get a cleaning crew in there and clean after these shitheads and get the folks in there to literally, I need to just get an AC fan and some hookups and boom, there we go. So
that's it.
Hopefully it shouldn't be too much, but thank you. Yes. Definitely excited to move forward and get things going forward in the life. Now, there is an in-ground pool. I don't know if I've talked about it. It's not working currently.
Yeah, not
yet.
It
might need a little bit of fixing. It definitely needs a little bit of fixing before it can be used. So if you guys want some foot pictures of, foot gina or my delicious little hobbit feet that are more bald than hairy, go ahead and let me know. I'll send
Potatoes.
Exactly. But there's a lot of work to do. I'm not even going to mess with the pool for like a year at least. I'm going to have somebody come out and
just fill it with beer.
Don't tempt me.
I'm serious, man. Just fill it with a bunch of beer.
Yeah, maybe a pool. There you go, a B&B pool edition. But I'm not going to worry about that right away. There's other things to be pressing. I'm going to get a quote on what it's going to cost to fix. I might wait a season to mess with that because there's other little things going on in this place. But with this volatile market, I'm just excited to have
Schmidt's
something.
beer incoming.
Yeah,
Schmidt's beer.
Right. I get the reference. Yep.
I actually have good news.
Do you?
Finally, we got a contractor that's going to come over tomorrow and start tearing down our deck.
Are you serious?
And then putting in our patio next week.
Finally. Now,
fuck yeah, dude.
Is it going to be like the same height right now as well, too?
No. What, the patio?
Yeah, like right out the back door?
No, dude, we're going to do steps down. It's what is it? Stamped concrete.
Okay.
So it's going to be a couple steps down, like 4 big steps down,
Okay.
kind of open, like a wider step range.
Sure.
And then nice patio with the smoker and the grill
Nice.
and the Blackstone.
There you go. Are you going to have like a cover for those things? Or
Oh, yeah, I got covers for them. I'm not like an actual awning,
not,
but
yeah,
I got covers for
okay.
them. We're going to get a table with some fucking... We are 2 old farts talking about homes and home improvement. Hey, man, I'm just happy to finally have it done so I can have a place to sit outside, get fucking drunk, and not have to worry about my deck collapsing beneath me.
And then we can finally do the half-ass beer B&B outside meats and beer streams.
Yeah, man. Do the fire pit, fire table.
Man.
Have the smoker going.
There
we'll
you
have
go.
a bunch of beer that Drastin can send up.
There you go.
Get
Because we don't
drunk
want
and
to
go and party outside.
There you go.
Really, really fucking excited.
Thanks, Gray.
I am really excited to finally have that done, though. Seriously, it's been a year and a half, man. That one contractor just dicking us around, jerking us around, and just finally found somebody that was like, yeah, I can come in, tear the deck out tomorrow, and we'll start working on it next week. And it's just like, I know this guy's got good credentials, so I'm like, fucking hype, man.
Find out if he knows anybody that can do basements.
He probably does know somebody. He's worked on multiple things.
Just ask.
So I'll
I'm
ask
looking
him.
for anybody. I'm looking for a contractor for basement.
What about
work.
the guy that did your house?
Not that first.
Not really. Good news is going to be Frankenfurter in August and was chosen as a designer in a runway show in September.
Hey,
Man,
congratulations.
Cherry is so busy.
I know. Congratulations. That's a lot of fucking hard work. I know you've been out there hustling and working a lot too. So good for you.
She does. She puts. She grinds, man. She grinds hard. So congrats, Cherry. Well done. What's everyone else up to? Fuck, man. How was everyone's 4th?
Yeah. Well, you know, I didn't. Here's the thing. I fucking used to love the 4th of July. I still enjoy it because it's a great summertime thing.
Cheers, Drastin.
I'm still in a lot of transitional things right now in life, so like I really wasn't able to do anything for it. But I'm not a fireworks guy, and I never really have been.
Sure.
Usually, it creates fights or arguments or whatever. I don't even go down that road right
That's
now.
just a Saginaw thing.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, you know, after living in the worst parts of, not worse, it's not terrible.
It's not. I would say that's pushing it. That's pushing it.
Just in an area that's not necessarily always the first option or should be.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
You know, the 4th of July started about 2 weeks ago, slowly, and then this week, 4th of July starts around 4 or 5 p.m. and goes till about midnight or longer, because everybody is setting off fucking mortars and shit all the nonstop.
Yes,
and I am so fucking over it. My animals can't stand it. I have friends that are veterans that can't handle it this time of year as well. So it's just like I'm not a firework person.
Sure.
I feel like you've seen a firework or two. You've pretty much seen them all, because the only other difference is in a different sky and different color.
Yeah, shooting guns in the air, that's the dumbest shit because the bullets don't just fucking fly into space.
Well, I've found them.
You found one in your porch.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with that as well.
Bullets
too,
come back down, guys. So when you're
can't-
aiming over a fucking residential area, you might kill somebody.
Yeah. Can't handle all that, so not a fan of the fireworks. So, but my weekend was really good. We just kind of hung out, did some real chilling. I drank a little bit here or there. Did a little bit of packing, made an impromptu drive to my favorite, one of my favorite restaurants, Tomato Brothers, on Sunday to get some their mastacholi, and then went to a little dessert spot, this little ice cream like candy parlor downtown, this little baked good spot, and got a very adorable, of course, pretty princess called Party Animal shake, which came with it was all sugar cookie based and just happened to be pink, so. It was amazing.
Wow.
Though. So it was a good day. Good. So some good stuff, good times, and then of course Indiana Jones yesterday to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, we obviously we haven't done a show. Was it 3 weeks? I think it's been 2. It might have been 3
This
weeks,
fucking summer's been busy.
It's been very busy. So it's been a couple. I think the last time we did a show, we previewed TheFlash, and then we went TheFlash week, and then the following week we were off, and now we're back this week. So. We have a couple a quartet of movies and some video games to talk about. It's not going to be a terribly deep show just because, you guys, I didn't have a whole lot of fucking time to prep this week. Like I said, the kids just started their second season of baseball. Now it's both kids playing baseball, which means time is limited. So I do apologize for that. But, Tone, is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Anything else at all?
No, I did. Cherry did say that she saw Booty Haver at Pokemon convention.
What?
Yeah, I ran into her. Really random. I
saw Booty Haver at Pokemon convention this past weekend. Really? Booty's always at those things, man. She loves Pokemon.
Yeah. She's making moves, so that's pretty cool that you got to run into her. So,
Does she have a new
She does. She's added a new account. She's trying to move away a little bit from the booty havers. She's trying to just focus more on it's boots. So if you guys get a chance, check her out on Instagram as well too. She's always doing content, a lot of Pokemon stuff, a lot of fun videos. She's
fun, man. She's so funny.
She's a riot. So
make sure you check her out. I'm trying to think what else I have. Oh, before we get into anything, I did try out Synapse. Yeah. Obviously, PSVR 2 is still something that I'm very much into. I still play the putty golf game all the time. But Synapse came out yesterday. That's the one starring David Hayter and Jennifer Hale. Obviously, David Hayter, he's kind of a name in the video game industry. Dude, this is basically Star Wars with guns. You get one hand as your weapon, whether it be a submachine gun or something more powerful. In your other hand, you have telekinesis powers.
Okay. And
it makes great use of the PSVR 2 headset and it's all the features that come with it. The field of view, or the, what is it, something with your eyes? I can't remember. FOV tracking, I think it is.
Yeah.
And basically what it is like when you're in the game and you see an item you want to use your telekinesis powers to lift up and throw at an enemy or whatever, all you have to do is look at it. You don't have to like select it or anything. Like, you just look at it with your eyes. Like, yeah, I want to pick that up, and you hold down the L2 button, and you pick it up, and you can fucking throw it or beat people with it. But then it adds the haptic feedbacks when you shoot. Obviously, the trigger, like most of the games, but the telekinesis. If you see like a red barrel that can explode, when you hold down R2 when you pick that up, you can feel the haptic click where you're at that threshold, and that's how you pick it up. And then you move it by a bunch of enemies with your hand, and then you just pull the trigger further, and it blows up.
Nice.
The shooting is nice. It's a roguelike game. It's got a very cool aesthetic to it. I was just, once again, PSVR 2 is just leaps and bounds above the last headset.
I did see some banter about the Synapse game, and looked like a lot of positive feedback.
There was a lot of positive previews. The reviews have been pretty good. I'm digging it so far. I think it's just another great showcase title for VR, and it really shows that VR in general, not just PSVR 2, but how PSVR 2 is kind of moving everything forward, and you'll see that from the MetaQuest 3 and everything that comes out after. Man, everyone's going to start pushing that hardware to new lengths, and it's going to be fucking awesome, man.
It's cool.
Like I said, there's some great titles: Red Matter 2, Synapse, the Walkabout Creek VR putty golf game, obviously Horizon Call of the Mountain. There's a lot of great games on PlayStation VR 2, and if you have it, check out Synapse as well as the other ones I just mentioned. It's an evolution, man. Like, it really is. Awesome. It looks better, it sounds better, and most importantly, it plays better, and it's much more immersive and fucking hype. Are we talking about schnapps in the chat? Jesus Christ. What is it, 99?
I still hit on some schnapps all day.
What's your favorite schnapps?
Always peach.
Yeah, it's usually peach.
It's hard not to. It's... I mean, I don't know.
You could suck on a peach for hours, right?
You know it.
That's what I thought. All right, guys and gals, we're going to jump right into the movie reviews. First up, I wanted to get Crash to call in, but I just don't know if the audio is going to hold up. So, Crash, you're just going to have to type a lengthy response in the chat, and I will read it for you, just like Rod Burgundy reads everything that he sees on the teleprompter.
Oh, great.
But Tone, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. The renowned archaeologist, the all-time great, legendary, globe-trotting archaeologist is back for what is most likely Harrison Ford's final bow as the iconic Indiana Jones. When the trailers dropped for this, obviously we knew about it well in advance a year. When the first trailer dropped, we were both kind of like, oh, this might be good. This could be really good.
Could be worse than the one prior.
I mean, it can't. The only way is up. The only way is up.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, dude, this is actually a pretty cool looking trailer. It's got some CG in the trailer, but I was like, I get it. He's 80 years old. Potential spoilers than what I write. I am just gonna. Hey, man, just like I said, man, just like little things.
Yeah.
You know?
Try not to get too spoilery.
Not too. I mean, the story's fucking ludicrous. I don't think it really matters. It's not a fucking like life-changing revelation at the end or anything like that. But yeah, be careful with some spoilers. But I'll probably ruin something because it's one of the biggest issues I have with this fucking movie, and I don't fucking care about that. But I won't spoil anything else. I won't spoil anything else. We blow shit up at our party. We got a mannequin loaded with half sticks. That's how Tricky does his for it, man.
What the fuck, Trick?
He blows up mannequins.
That's a waste of a good sex toy. But go on.
Unreal. So here it is. It came out. Now we do know leading up to before the movie came out, Cannes Festival didn't quite get the reaction they were hoping for. There's a little bit of like, uncertainty after that. I was like, oh, it might not be as good as everyone kind of hopes. Reviews came out. They were okay, but not terrible. They weren't like fucking Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls bad. But again, more just kind of like not great word of mouth. Not quite the buzz you're hoping to, see from the final Harrison Ford-led Indiana Jones movie.
Right.
So we went and saw it this past weekend. And like I said in the quick reaction, it's not as bad as Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, but in my opinion, it's just not much better. It's serviceable at best, in my opinion. Look, guys, I get it. Harrison Ford is seriously, he's an old man. He's 80 years old. And we can't, and for anyone to go into a movie like this and expect to see Harrison Ford doing all the stunts that he did. I mean, he didn't do all of them, but he did a lot of his own stunts in Raiders, Temple, and Crusade. Like, he's just, that's one of the things he was most renowned for, is he can do everything.
Stapled the hat to his head in the Crusade when he's riding the horse.
So it didn't fly off. So I get it. We're past those times. But, dude, just because Harrison Ford is old doesn't mean Hollywood has to do away with practical effects and good stunt work.
Mm-hmm.
Practical effects is good. I get it. Special effects look cool, and he can make all things happen and make Harrison Ford look young. That part I get. I understand those portions of it.
Yeah, he looked good, actually. The young stuff, I thought looked good.
The de-aged version looked really good.
Yeah, it did.
And I understand it's a much more complicated process than what Scorsese did with Irishman. But, you guys, and I think this is like kind of like where you are with Final Fantasy. This is the grandpa in me.
Mm-hmm.
Where the fuck is the movie magic?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we really? Are we really beyond it? I mean, Tom Cruise does a lot of practical stuff. He jumps off a fucking cliff, hangs onto the side of a plane. Yes, he's 61. He's a little bit more spry than Harrison Ford.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else going on, they use CGI to enhance the action in certain ways. In Indiana Jones and a lot of the fucking DC stuff, the CGI is everything. Batman in TheFlash. A lot of that scene is Batman CGI.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I get it. Michael Keaton can't do that stuff, but I don't have to know that it's Michael Keaton in the Cape and Cowl. You can have a fucking stunt double do all the action, but when you do all CGI, it's just like, okay, this isn't real.
There were times in that movie where it was evident too, like extremely evident.
You couldn't even hide it.
It was extremely.
It was like right there with the monkey swinging through the jungle in Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. Like this is fucking fake, dude.
I can't believe you just said that out loud. Was it Mud swinging too?
Yeah, Mud was one of the guys swinging through it. Yeah.
Sorry.
But like, not only is the CGI just completely overdone again, the story is really a fucking mess. It really is a mess. The motivations of Mads Mikkelsen's character as the head Nazi, like that part of the story, I was like, man, that's actually a pretty cool idea.
Had a lot of potential.
Had a lot of potential.
But
then he turns out to be a fucking idiot, and the movie goes full CGI, and then the last 30 minutes is just fucking like, what is going on? I mean, like, it went to the absurd. Like, look, man, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, pretty absurd. Then they dialed it back a little bit with Crusade. There was a little bit more practical, a little bit more grounded, but it still had, you gotta have, I get it, you gotta have that Indiana Jones, like, oh shit, death-defying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is just like, seriously, the last 30 minutes, I was just like this. Did we really go here? Is this really what we're doing? I could not get into it, man. And like, look, for those of you that go see, the ending was my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Britton, you're a sweetheart. Movie's terrible. No, I'm just joking. It's not terrible. But before we get into that, I want to get Brittany's thoughts. So, Brittany, type up what you liked about the ending, as spoiler-free as you can. But here's my issue, guys, and this is going to be a one spoiler part. Now, obviously, we know Mads Mikkelsen is a major player in this game. He's right up there with Harrison Ford in terms of the listing. In the first 20 minutes of this movie, Mads Mikkelsen's character is on top of a train, going at a high rate of speed. And in a moment where Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones catches him off guard, Mads Mikkelsen's character turns around and eats a metal bar of like a pole overhanging the track. Well, I don't know what that would be for.
Yeah, it's one like a light,
like thing, a light post,
whatever it is.
He eats that right in his face. It doesn't even give. It doesn't break. He eats it, and then falls off the moving train into an abyss below. And then immediately at that part of the movie, I was like, oh, shit, I thought he was in this movie longer than that. Because in my mind, I'm like, he's dead. There's no way. No way. Because he just ate that thing, that fucking metal pipe, doing God knows how. I mean, I don't know how fast trains went in the 30s, 40s, maybe 50
that
miles
thing was
per hour.
Even if it was moving, which I'm pretty sure was clipping at like 50, 60 miles an hour.
He ate this thing and then fell off the train into the Alps. So it's probably not a soft landing. 20 minutes later, he shows up with a scar, a very small scar here. He should look like Mason Verger in Hannibal. In a wheelchair, eating out of a straw, going, Colbert, where are you? Colbert. He shouldn't be able to do anything. Yeah, he's just saying, like, yeah, I'm back. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, cool. I was kind of flabbergasted first. I was like, is he really alive? Is he still here? And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, here's what happened. I know this is Dial of Destiny. This is some kind of fucking time travel shit. And they're going to show us that somebody went back and said, duck. You know, they just yelled duck from the side of the mountain. He was like, oh, cool. And cool, there he is. Nope. He survived. I can suspend disbelief for a lot of shit. John McClane in Die Hard 4, he's riding on the back of a jet. He's surfing on the back of a fucking jet that's spinning out of control. And he jumps off, slides down a tunnel, and he walks away. He's got little bruises and stuff, but at least I know he survived. This dude took a mouthful of metal off the top of a train and fell into an abyss and showed up 20 minutes later with just a little scar on his head. Oh, that was it, huh? That's all it took. Dude, I was just like, okay. And from there, man, they tried to build up this relationship between Harrison Ford and his goddaughter. And she's a good actor. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I think her name is.
Great actress.
She's a really good actress. Her character's a piece of shit. Her character arc sucks. She's a piece of shit through 90% of the movie. And all of a sudden at the end, she's like, I'll change my tune. I'm not such a bad person. Bullshit. You got a budget-ass short round running around flying airplanes. Dude. The only thing good about this movie is Harrison Ford. And like I mentioned in my quick reaction, the reason I enjoyed him so much in this movie because you can tell, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, he's passionate about Indiana Jones. We've talked about this before. Look, Han Solo, great character, part of a bigger ensemble. He's not the headliner. But in Indiana Jones is his baby. When Raiders came out, that's what said, hey, Harrison Ford, A-lister, one of the biggest earners ever in Hollywood history. Up until Tom Cruise, like in the late 90s or whatever, and Will Smith, Harrison Ford was the guy. $1 billion earned at the box office. If you want a movie that makes a lot of money, you get fucking Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And he's great in it. He's really good. Given the material with the material he's given to work with, he is really good. He's passionate. He shows a great deal of range. He is really into it. And I love that. And I believe that from the interviews that we saw before the movie came out. But dude, that's it, man. Like it's got some entertainment here and there, and there's some decent scenes, but for the most part, every scene where they can build on character arcs, either for Harrison Ford, for Indiana Jones, or his goddaughter, they're just like cramped all together with shitty writing, and then you're on to the next CGI bombastic scene. And I'm just like, dude, this is not the Indiana Jones that I know. And yeah, if that makes me a grumpy old man, I'll fucking own it. I love Hollywood when there was awesome ass stunt work. And they use CGI sparingly or enough to just kind of enhance something.
Yes.
But when you lean into it for a whole fucking movie, I get it. Harrison Ford isn't going to ride a fucking horse in the subway. I get that. But, dude, I will take a dude in a bad wig riding around on a horse. I'll be like, you know what? Yeah, that's fucking Indy. I don't care.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I'm listen,
it's a better story than Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls.
Yeah.
Barely.
It is. And I think I enjoyed it more than you. I think that's safe to say. I don't know that, I feel like I, was like, oh, this is the greatest movie I've seen, or, it wasn't anything like that. But I did come out of it, and the first thing I said is, as I'm looking at it, I enjoyed this movie, and I'm having a hard time finding things that were so bad that I didn't like the movie, that made me dislike the movie, because that didn't happen. But I am always 100% behind when we talk about practical effects, and the problem is this is also a Disney thing as well too, is that Disney is in everything because they're using the CGI shit. They're using it so much, and it's getting to the point where where it was originally groundbreaking, it's kind of saturating now, and I think that's part of the problem as well too. And Crash made a comment about how often do we see in a Disney movie where almost people pick things up that aren't CG as well too, and that's a great point. We were actually talking about, and I'm not kidding you when we say this, we were talking about how like you almost kind of got to wonder, like, are they doing CGI dust now as well too? I mean, that sounds goofy,
Yeah.
but like even like
in Renfield they are.
right, but so I'm saying like even like realistic dust is
dust,
something,
you said. Sorry,
just dust in general, just just
particle effects and whatnot.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's still value in those things, and they're literally just trying to like. I don't know if using the CGI is a money saver for them. I'm gonna guess it must be somehow because what is it to bring in a chair?
I don't know. Is it really considering the budget? Go ahead.
We'll get. I can't wait to that because like as much as I love some Indiana Jones, I'm excited for the potential what this means for a certain someone, whether or not that's reality or not, or who knows. But there was some scenes in this movie where I was just like, God damn it, like that was unnecessary CGI.
Yeah.
That was some completely unnecessary CGI, and it's a fucking shame because I was looking for it specifically because I'm like, I had a feeling, and sure enough, like so much of it was just fucking CGI, and like I said, some movies do great with the CGI, some things do well. But when it's going to be so much, like even in Quantumania, I know people were like saying, "Oh, it's just too much CGI." Well, for me, that's kind of something
that's different though. That's
exactly
fantastical.
You don't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
In something like this, which is supposed to be grounded and rooted a little bit more, I expected with a budget like that yes, there'd be more practical effects involved. Get a real horse, get a real camel, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, I agree on a lot of the things that I feel the story was a little bit messy. His goddaughter, that whole relationship, like I'm a big fan of hers. I really like her.
She's so weird, man.
But like there was no like revelation turning point for her.
No,
all of a sudden she just like decided to turn. Like I need more than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like and the kid like was like I was like that's the first thing I thought of.
Budget short round.
Was like, oh, we're trying to tap into the short round thing. Cool.
I would have rather had short round show up in a small cameo than have budget short round.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it could have been. And Mads Mikkelsen, I'm a big Mads guy.
He's amazing.
I told you.
He's amazing.
I feel like he was better in Death Stranding in a fucking video game than he was in this movie. He had better material to work with at least, and he was more imposing. Like he had a great scope of what he wanted to do.
I loved his motivation.
That was a great idea. I don't think the kid was a terrible kid. I just don't think he
did Brittany see fucking Temple?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I'm gonna guess.
I was gonna say if she would have said she hadn't seen Temple, then I'd be like, okay, then I understand why she likes the kid. But I know it's short. I've seen Short Round 1,000 times, and this kid is a budget short round.
Right. And like I feel like the biggest problem with this movie, and this comes with Mads Mikkelsen as well too, is that the material they were given just wasn't as great as it could have or should have been for Indiana Jones, and I think that's also part of the problem. And Mads, you got somebody who is just this incredible, imposing actor. Oh, well, okay. Well, that's got to change. Clearly.
Yeah, see, now your opinion on it wanes a little. But I'll let you watch it first, and then here. I just feel like Short Round was a better character. Like, he was just funnier.
Yeah, he is.
He was more helpful.
Well, and
he wasn't a piece of shit.
This is where I'm coming full circle here, what I'm trying to get at.
Sorry, go ahead.
You could tell that Steven Spielberg was not involved in this.
Oh, my God, yeah, absolutely.
And, like...
James Mangold's a great director, but he's not Spielberg.
Right. And that's and I was explaining it to it like when I was telling Crash, I'm like, I said something just felt missing, and then he mentioned Spielberg. He said, "That's it. That's
now
literally
remember
it."
This is Spielberg pre Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls because he's still responsible for Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls.
That's
true.
So
pre Crystal Skull Spielberg.
That's true.
That's what's missing.
And that to me like
Dr.
was
Jones,
so evident in this movie is that. Some of the character, like I like this version of this Indy. Indy was like he's very self-aware. He's an old man. He talks about it. He's a little grumpy. He's always been kind of grumpy in some ways, but like, excuse me, he's almost like he's been down this dark path a little bit, and he's kind of in that kind of shades of gray area. He talks about the stuff with Marion,
with Mutt. We know what his fate was.
We know all that, which is I laughed. All that stuff, but like. I like that sort of stuff, and it's just a shame that like his closing out wasn't as great as it could have been or should have been.
And it bums me out more because, like I said, he was so hyped in the interviews.
He's great in it. Like honestly, a lot of the actors,
really good.
The people in it are great. Even the cameo from Antonio Banderas, who gets on the fucking poster.
He's on the fucking poster, and he's in it for 5 minutes,
which is a bummer because I love Antonio Banderas. Like, I don't think the guy gets enough credit. Like, listen.
Sala made it though. I was pumped about Sala.
That was probably my biggest favorite moment of that entire
Sala
movie.
was there?
when Sala showed up and
dude.
he was doing his bits. He was even got to sing some too, which is very solid.
He did get to sing.
That's just some solid stuff. Like I really marked hard for that because he was always one of my favorites in the other movies.
He was awesome, man.
I love Sala was always so like.
Because he wasn't in Temple, but he was in Crusade.
Right, because Temple technically is a prequel, blah blah blah.
That's
but
true,
you know, but he was in, and he was really pretty important in Crusade. Honestly,
he was a big.
He
part
was
of
there
Crusade.
for a lot of that,
Yep.
So at the end of the day, listen, this is what I look at the movie. It's an all right movie. It's not Crystal Skulls. I don't hate this. I do agree. Like the ending kind of gets a little wonky. Like, listen, when you get outside of religious artifacts and religion as like a driving factor in certain things, even Temple of Doom because it's voodoo, right?
Right.
And you start looking at what's the next thing we can get into.
Aliens.
It's going to be sci-fi in it.
Russian aliens.
Sci-fi, and then you're going to get into space and time.
Yeah.
And
I would, if you, gun to my head, I would rather them gone space and time as opposed to the fucking goofy ass Russians and aliens.
Yeah, for sure. But like time, like I told you the other day, time is a tricky thing.
Hit or miss.
It's because like you open up a whole lot of can of worms when you deal with time, because
and they
time,
open up
time
a lot.
can be explained a lot in a lot of different ways. And the way it was done in this movie, I feel like conceptual wise, I know what they're trying to do when they're trying to link it back with the dial originally being made. But at the end of the day, I just feel like it kind of came off a little bit.
It felt like the rest of the movie. It was rushed. Like everything, every Harrison Ford's struggles, Indy's struggles, rushed. The whole time traveling, rushed.
Mm-hmm.
When they go to explain that there's these time rifts everywhere, I'm like, nobody fucking saw these things ever.
Right.
It's more than a thunderstorm. There's a huge butthole in the sky, and like all of a sudden, you only can see him because you have this thing.
Yeah.
Nobody saw these things anywhere.
The full circle moment, and I might be able to pick up on this, that I actually enjoyed was the fact that the reason why, like meeting, like the whole thing with Archimedes, there's a piece of that, and I don't want to get, because it could be spoilery, that, and I'll tell you about later, that I like, that it just felt like, that kind of makes sense why. But like the problem is that the story of Indiana Jones and the people around him was just so subpar.
Yeah.
That like at the end of the day, you look back at something like even like Crusade or whatever it is, and you're like, man, I can't believe that this is a movie that's based in that universe, and it should be like, it's almost like there's elements of Crystal Skull, and elements of this movie, like there's good and bad in both of them, and a lot of bad in some of them, but there's elements in those that almost should have been mixed. I almost feel like, oh wow.
Then this movie, I might go with you on that. Now, if you're talking about the franchise in general, I'm gonna drop ban hammer. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna
tread carefully.
Figure out where you are and probably remove your tires from your vehicle.
Okay, this movie. Okay,
Jesus.
that's fine. I'll allow that. I'll allow that.
We are breathing.
It's okay. It's okay. We don't have to. No drastic.
I don't want to ban anybody.
I want to run back really quick. We got a couple of comments here. Cherry said, "Ready Player One was mostly CGI, and that movie was great. It can be it can be done right." And I agree with that. Like Tron Legacy, that's got to be heavy CGI. I get it. Awesome movie. But I mean, dude, like this. Look at Jurassic Park, 1993. Yes, the dinosaurs are CGI, but fucking everything else going on around it was practical just about.
Yeah, I mean, there is practical T-Rexes in that, though, too.
The special effects, the stunt work, and everything in that movie, when you had this new fucking CGI thing, they balanced it out. There was still practical shit. Everything nowadays is all CGI. You look at Mad Max, Fury Road. That was one of the most dangerous movies ever put together. Because they did practical effects. Yes, they had some explosions that were CGI because you can't have a bunch of stunt people burning to death. But a lot of the vehicles, a lot of the action going on, that was fucking practical and stunt work. Don't tell me it can't be done. Crash has dropped the bomb here. Let's go through this. I was talking about the aliens in Indiana Jones today at work. I like the idea of Indiana Jones searching for some alien shit. Aliens were a phenomenon in the 50s, and aliens helping ancient humans is an old conspiracy theory that makes sense to have something in the universe. Plus, Indy fought Dracula and found some shit from Atlantis. See, dude, that.
See, like, here's the thing. Like, you breathe for a minute. So I agree with what you're kind of saying. The problem is that by the time you get to the end, it's like you're in a fucking spaceship. You got aliens walking around. Like, it got a little too campy. Like, part of the allure of that phenomenon is the unknown and not having those answers. And they went like full-fledged, like, you might as well beam me up, Scotty, because we're heading out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it got a little too, like, as goofy as it is, it got a little too real about it. Like, you need more. Like, Atlantis would have been fucking cool, though. Like, I do like some Atlantis shit.
J Hill, don't. I mean, honestly, man, if you have any love for the original trilogy, and I'm gonna go back to J Hill. He made a comment. Are you too attached to the originals, where this movie was never going to live up to expectations? Yes or no? Yes, because I do hold the original trilogy very close to my. I think it is almost
one of the best trilogies
It's
of all
masterclass filmmaking,
Movies,
from
yes.
story to stunt work to action to practical effects and some special effects. It was the perfect balance. That was pure cinema, pure matinee, fun action adventure movie.
Same thing you say about like Back to the Future.
There you go.
That 80s, like that whole mix of like all that. Yeah.
But like when you look at Kingdom of Crystal Skulls and you look at this feels like such a huge departure. I mean, yeah, I expect some evolution, but dude, it's jarring. It's not like a simple step over to CGI and let's add some more. So they fucking drown these movies in CGI. I love CGI, like Cherry said, when it's done right. In a movie like fucking Ant-Man or a movie like Tron Legacy or something like Ready Player One, it's fantastical. They can't create these worlds on a set. It has to be CGI.
Right.
It has to be CGI. But you can't tell me that you can't put a couple stunt people on top of a fucking train, run it at slow-mo as it's going forward, and then speed it up to make it look like it's going fast. You can still do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know, man. I wanted to like this movie. And I will say, like I said, I stand by it. Harrison Ford was fucking great in this movie. It's so good to see him finally in a movie where you can tell he's not just going through the motions, collecting the heavy paycheck. This is something that he's passionate about. And I fucking appreciate him for that. And I love him for it. And that's why it makes it even harder for me to fucking accept this movie as his final Indiana Jones movie. Because he is into it. Dude, Harrison Ford is 80 years old. He's been in movies for 50 fucking years. He doesn't have to act. Honestly, he doesn't. He can just show up and everyone's like, oh, that's me. Oh. But when everything else around it sucks, I feel like that's a slap in the face because the man still has ability. Mm-hmm. He can still command the screen. Mm-hmm. He still has incredible range. But then he just put all this fucking Kathleen Kennedy shit around it, and it's just like, you just wasted one of his last final big performances.
You said it. So, Crash says, but they should have made it better than it was. They should have been more mystery with the aliens. Like when Oxley was like, they're interdimensional beings. Are they? Why are they? Why did we see the skeletons turn into an alien? And that's the point. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's almost like with the archaeology stuff, like I get the ancient aliens thing is a thing in that kind of in like some worlds, but it's also gotten pretty goofy because we got guys like Stefan Lapalopoulos or whatever going like it's aliens, you know what I mean? Like they're saying like we couldn't do anything. Pyramids had to be built by aliens and doing all these bits and stuff like that. So there's elements of that where it's just like it's a little goofy already. So it's like trying to suspend your disbelief into it is difficult. Like, again, and Cherry said it, so would you rather just nix the spaceship stuff and just with Cliffhanger of the Unknown? I think to a degree you almost kind of have to with those things because even with, like, I feel like even, like, Crusade, for instance, like, it's pretty, like, on the nose in some ways about religion, but it still kind of, like, leaves these question marks about things as well, too. Like, it's not trying to, like, get you to buy into it.
Yeah, you're not on the nose with anything. You're not trying to extend a subtle message.
Right.
I mean, it drives the story.
Maybe the Ark of the Covenant because it melts your face, but that's a whole other time.
That was
you know what I mean?
That was sweet practical effects, though.
Right. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I just think Aliens is also a real slippery thing. And I get what you're saying about that Crash, the time frame, all that stuff. It is. But, like, he should be more worried about, like, finding a spear of destiny, not a dial of destiny, but, you know, and different things and stuff like that as well, too. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Atlantis would have been a great one. Like, why didn't they ever tackle that? Like, that'd have been fucking gnarly with him. Like, Atlantis is a fucking old civilization. Does it exist? You know what I mean? Like, that would be a great one, right? You know, things in that nature, or, you know, the lost, what is the City of Gold? Fucking...
Oh, City is
Coronado, probably.
Coronado's dead. City of Zinj.
Yeah.
What was it?
I can't think of the name of the City of Gold, but either way, I digress. But at the end of the day, I think that it's at least Yeah, something like that. Well, the spear is supposed to
It
be...
was Constantine. It was Constantine.
Well, the spear was also, because they're calling it the actual spear of whatever in this one, but technically didn't they say the spear?
It stabbed Christ.
Stabbed Christ in the side. Like, that was one of the things. I thought that was also called something different. But, I mean, anyways, to get too off topic.
Bad gorilla.
But, no, I think that this being the end of the series instead of Crystal Skull, at least, is a better earmark than Crystal Skull.
It is, but at the end of the day, I'm still just going to treat it like a trilogy. I just, like these movies.
I've never watched Crystal Skull again. So.
I mean, that's honestly, I don't know if it's going to be very difficult because, like I said, and again, this is just coming from a place because I love Harrison Ford was my childhood hero. Yeah. He really was. I mean, through the 80s, that was my idol. That I was just like, this guy is what I want to be. This character is fucking awesome. He's cocky. He's the hero. He's badass. And I fucking love these movies. These movies were like a staple of my childhood. So, yeah, maybe I am being a little bit more harsh, but that's because it's not because I love the movies. It's because I love what went into those movies.
Well, they're still critically acclaimed and still held the sands of times. People can watch.
Dude, they're timeless movies.
But you don't hear anybody go, "Hey, you guys want to hang out and watch Crystal Skull tonight? Get a pizza." You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, they're playing all 4 indie movies. I'd be like, I'll watch the first 3, but I'm going home.
Right, I watched it one time. It was in the theater, and I was like, "What the fuck?" When they got to the end, I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? What is this shit?"
Yeah, dude.
I was like, "Whoa!" Like,
look, this movie has some merits. It's got, like I said, Harrison Ford is probably the best thing about the movie because, again, the guy just shows up and he gives it his all, and I know he's passionate about this character because this was his baby. This is what made him a star, and I love him for that, and it's something I'm always going to remember. But I'm just going to remember the trilogy, the original trilogy, because those were like it wasn't just how awesome he was. It's how awesome Spielberg was. It's how awesome John Williams was.
Yeah.
It's how awesome the stunt work and everything was just fucking perfect.
Yeah.
And if that makes me an old man, I'll own it. And I'm not saying people can't enjoy this movie. There are people that have enjoyed it, and that's great. But I just obviously not too many people have seen the movie. I mean, there's been a good showing, but based on yours and I's experience of going to the theater, it's mostly people our age or much older.
Right, and that's also a problem why the box office is having an issue. It's not drawing in the younger crowds.
None.
That means that there is a gap there, and that is the old man on the porch thing, and that's fine.
Yep.
But like, I wish I'd have gone at a different time because I had older gentlemen confused where they were supposed to sit because you have signed seats.
Did you have an older guy yelling to his wife to explain the movie to her?
That was definitely that was a good one.
Dude, I seriously was sitting there with my sons, and all we heard was this, "Oh, Harrison Ford's going here." And I was like, is this guy fucking yelling?
He's literally giving the entire
They're like yelling. He's yelling to explain it to her. I was like, this is not happening.
Yeah,
right now.
it was something else. But I'm glad that it's drawn to those people. But it is unfortunate to see because, like, with the amount of money they spent on this,
$294 million pre-marketing,
which means
need to make a lot of money.
You mean like more money now.
And in the box office in the U.S., it made $60 million this past week and $154 million worldwide. This movie is going to struggle, and I mean struggle to even break even. And if that's the case, Tone, who was the top producer on this movie? Other than Steven Spielberg, who had to have his hand in it.
That would have been Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh, wow. Kathleen Kennedy runs the budget through the fucking roof. And by all accounts, this movie, I mean, you got Mission Impossible next week. Mm-hmm. You got Barbie, which is going to be a huge hit for certain crowds. And you're going to have Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, yeah.
Those 3 movies are coming out in the next 3 weeks. This movie is not going to hit $300 million worldwide. That's just the budget for the film. That doesn't include marketing.
Yeah.
So that's probably somewhere close to fucking $350, maybe $400 million budget. This is going to struggle to hit that.
And the thing that made me excited about this, and even though some people are sick of hearing about the Kathleen Kennedy thing, but there's a reason why it comes up for every other movie that she produces or everything that she's got a hand in, which producers, by the way, typically don't have their hands so deep in the pockets of movies, but she seems to be reaching for the lint that's in the corner of it. But Iger, when he came back, he was really concerned and kind of pissy apparently about the budget of this, and she announced some, she did those announcing projects like last year about Star Wars, and they canceled a lot of those.
Yeah.
She's writing checks with her mouth that her ass can't pay for. What Peter Molyneux did for years at Lionhead Studios, and hopefully this finally puts her on the firing line. Now, will anything come out of it? Who knows? Like, you cut one head off to replace that, right? So who knows what they put in place of her? But it should be guys that and gals that are passionate about Star Wars, not people that are worried about what the dollar bill is on that. And I think that's part of the problem is that Disney's a money making machine, and I understand that, but like at some point you got to pump the brakes and say, where are we going wrong? You have to reflect on that, and I think that she's a roadblock in that. So we'll see what that ends up with. I clearly don't know that with you, like we said, like Mission Impossible was already tracking some really good reviews, early stuff that.
Sitting at about 98% on like fucking out of 80 reviews.
And classically, they've done well and made money in the theaters.
And it's not, dude. After riding off Top Gun Maverick, Tom Cruise is once again.
Yeah.
He's like he's at Harrison Ford levels now.
Yep.
Like Harrison Ford was back in his. Like this movie's gonna make a ridiculous amount of money.
Yep.
You know why? Because it is peak cinema.
Mm-hmm.
It's peak action. Great stunts.
Mm-hmm.
Great action. Edge of your seat excitement that you're like really buying into it.
Whoa, wait. It is on Kathleen Kennedy, dude. It was already come out that it's on her.
Kennedy
I don't know. He was doing this bit on Facebook. It is on her. Iger said it's on her. She's the one that's got her hands deep in the pockets and doing this, man.
Dude, she's the producer.
Yeah, no. Because he will also admit
Actually,
that there's
yeah,
fault
I
and
think
stuff
we
like
have
that.
been bitching about Feige.
And the MCU in general about their lackluster stuff. This is Kathleen Kennedy.
Ooh.
This is Kathleen Kennedy.
This is hers. This is her baby, man.
Igar called her out for this shit already. This has already been known. So, yeah, this is Kathleen Kennedy, man. She's the one that's been doing all the fucking bits and all the fucking blah, blah, blah and running the mouth, man.
George Lucas handpicked her a long time ago, too. Keep in mind.
And she had a hand in Indiana Jones movies, by the way, back in the day.
Yeah, she's been in it from a long time, and clearly she's lost sight of how to make these movies sell without having to fucking go over the budget.
Name all the good she's done recently for that, because last I checked, the good in Star Wars was The Mandalorian and the Disney Plus stuff, and she got in fights with Jon Favreau over some of that stuff because he was sick of her shit.
I didn't know Crash was a fucking sympathizer. Man.
I don't like. You're entitled to your opinion, but like that Kathleen Kennedy, this is on Kathleen Kennedy, and it is known to be on Kathleen Kennedy.
I mean, you can put some of the blame on Spielberg. He was a hands-on producer as well, but I mean, look, James Mangold's directing it, but the reason they have that budget is because Kathleen Kennedy's like, yeah, fucking throw all the CGI at it you want, do all this and that. Kathleen Kennedy has a huge hand on that budget.
The sequel trilogy, how's that's gone with the fans? It's fractured the fan base. That was Kathleen Kennedy. So tell me where all the good is. Because
no need to take Crash out.
No, he's still my boy.
Oh yeah.
I'm just looking over here with my little fucking magnifying glass to find the good shit that Kathleen Kennedy's done. I ain't seeing a lot of shit right now.
I think Crash is sitting back going, yes, this is what I wanted with that comment. I just she has a huge part in it, Crash. She has a massive.
Here's the bottom line I'm going to say about all this stuff when we move on from this fucking topic.
Oh, go ahead.
The problem since the pandemic, and I've said this before, is that viewership in the modern consumer of movies have been so complacent with whatever is put in front of them that we've lost sight of having the ability to objectively, I guess, criticize movies, good, bad, what the issues is. We're just intaking this shit and being complacent for it because we're like, oh, thank you for more movies. At some point, we have to stop and look at stuff and say, why is this not moving forward? Why is this not doing well? Where is the issue? Where's the bottleneck? And guess what? It can be producers. And if you've literally fractured an entire fan base of Star Wars and you're a pretty big hand in it, because guess what? You're the one writing the checks. As bad as the MCU has been recently in recent life, it hasn't fractured the MCU. People are still going to buy them. They're still making pretty good money. Star Wars, on the other hand, the fans, for the most part, stopped dealing with that shit until Mandalorian stuff started to come out in D+. Somebody has to be put in charge of saying, you're the issue here. Feige has recognized, and he was even, with even the Ant-Man stuff, he's flipped his gears and he's already trying to make amends. Igar's cut stuff as well, too. So, it's, like I said, at some point, somebody has to take blame. So if it's not Kathleen Kennedy, who is it? Bob Iger? Spielberg?
And see, and honestly, man, we could sit there and put the blame on Mangold. I mean, obviously, like I said, I think Mangold's a really good director. Obviously, Logan was fucking awesome. Ford vs. Ferrari. He's got good movies under his belt. But at the same time, Mangold isn't going to walk on set and tell Kathleen Kennedy how things are going to go like Steven Spielberg can walk on set and tell a fucking producer, here's how things are going to go. Spielberg can walk on set and be like, shut the fuck up and let me make this movie. James Mangold, not quite there yet. So when Kathleen Kennedy comes over to James Mangold and says, hey, I want to do this. I want you to add more of this. I want you to overkill the CGI here. James Mangold can be like, well, I don't know. And she's going to be like, what? Are you telling me no? James Mangold doesn't have that fucking cash behind him like Steven Spielberg does.
Producers normally do not, like I've said, do not typically have their hands so deep into the production.
But she's shown that she's done that.
She does a lot of that. And you can tell, but she's the ones out there in front of the media doing her blah blah blah, and she's been doing that for years. So at some point, like I said, Somebody's got to be pointed at blame, and we just keep going, well, maybe this just people aren't into Star Wars anymore. Nah, there's a reason why. There's a reason why.
Oh, he's replying. I'm not a sympathizer. Don't get that twisted. As far as the good shit she's done, everything the merger era that has been a financial critical success are her successes. Everything that the merger era that has been how many have been financial?
Yeah, Mark
that. Look, dude, like when you make a movie, like if this movie costs $400 million to make, and if it still manages to make like $410 million, that's not a success. This thing needed to come out and do gangbusters at the box office. A $300 million budget with marketing on top of that, that fucking thing needs to do $700 million in order for Disney to be like, good job. If this thing barely crosses over, it's fucking done, and that's on Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, Mangold's going to catch a rap because he's the director, but everyone knows the budget is controlled by the studio, a.k.a. the producers. It's a flop, dude. It's not going to break even, and that is exactly on Kathleen Kennedy because she allowed the budget to go over. And she probably was in Mangold's ear because Mangold is not Spielberg.
Mario made a fuck ton of money, by the way.
Mario did make a fuck ton of money.
And it's still making a fuck ton of money. I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is still
making money. That's at $600 million, I think.
Yeah,
so that one's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But like, look,
they're
man,
both animated.
At the end of the day, like, look, man, if people enjoy it, that's fine. I get it. And if they're longtime Indiana Jones fans and they dig it, that's cool. Maybe I'm just from a different school where I look at everything of Indiana Jones and I look at everything that went into those movies, not just the actor, not just the director, but everything else that made those movies peak fucking cinema in the 80s and 90s. And when all of that is missing, or a majority of that is missing from a movie like this, or even worse, Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, I'm sorry. I'm not going to walk out there going, well, it felt like old indie, so I'm cool with it. No, this was nothing like the original trilogy. It's again, in my mind, when I lay on my deathbed, either 25, 30 years from now or tomorrow, whatever, there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies. There's only 3. There's the original trilogy. These ones have been they just seem like cash grabs that are just like throw as much fucking shit on the screen as possible, make it loud, and people will flock to it. I want to know why, seriously, man, I really want to see the numbers that Hollywood sees because all these movies have so much CGI. What analytics are they looking at where people are like, man, this is fucking sweet? Even though these movies are all bombing, TheFlash, Rise of the Beast isn't going to do too well. All heavy CGI shit. I want to see what numbers of the studios are like, man, let's pump in $300 million here and just barely make it over that. I want to know what they're getting. Do people seriously walk out of the theater going, holy fuck, I didn't know what was going on. Everything looked fake. What a movie. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, I mean, I appreciate Harrison Ford's efforts. It's the highlight of the film, but this was just a little bit better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, which in turn makes it another failure for Indiana Jones. And yeah, it's just a trilogy for me, man. So it is what it is. But we want to get you guys and girls' thoughts. If you did see the movie, let us know in the comments what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. How does it stack up with the original trilogy? We want to hear from you. Sound off. I promise. Just don't try to pass the buck and say it wasn't Kathleen Kennedy's fault. This guy's going to reply to you, whether it's in the chat.
Igar clearly knows it's her fault. Everybody knows it's her fault.
Everybody knows it's her fault.
Yeah, no grandstanding for her.
And I think Crash has a crush on her. I really think that's what it is. What do you think? Think so?
I don't even want to comment on it.
Oh, Crash, man. I can't wait to see you guys at the next movie get together. All right, speaking of fucking flops, Tone, we didn't get a chance to talk about this. But we did go to see it. We've been meaning to try to get in touch with Coys and make everything connect. It's just, dude, July is a shit month for you and I. It's really hard to fuck it. And them too. They're busy as fuck. It's really difficult, but we do want to talk a little bit about TheFlash.
I have standards, Crash.
This is another movie that is fizzling out quickly at the box office. It cost $200 million before marketing, and it has just barely gone over $240 million worldwide. So, again, $40 million earnings on a $200 million budget is not good. That's not good. Because that's most of that $47 million over the budget is probably getting spent on the marketing. And, yeah, you have another bomb. And, dude, DC just they can't get a break.
You know, I don't want to sit and talk about this fucking movie that long after that lengthy conversation about, a good franchise. Listen, the highlight of this movie was definitely getting Keaton back as Batman. The first half hour, when you're listening to Ezra Miller, they are just so frustrating to deal with.
There's some scenes where he's good, but for the most part, the back and forth between the two, it's just like they're purposely making them so different, and it feels weird.
Yeah, they just definitely like got two different versions. One was good, one was bad. One was super annoying, like you'd expect, and it really was at the end of the day, the CGI that really fucked this film. I don't know what DC is doing. Like we just talked about CG, and at least in Indiana Jones CGI, they're trying. They're making an actual attempt.
Yeah.
DC is literally paying some guy in a van down by a river or something, wherever he's at, to say, "Hey, I need to do this. I need a bunch of Pete from Office. What is it? Office Space.
Office Space. Yeah.
Office Space. Instead
Peter.
of using his real face." And all these CG things, and then have everybody say, "Oh, well, it's because it's in the Speed Force. This is distortion." Distortion CGI wasn't.
Even the director was like, "Well, that was a choice." Well, it was a bad choice.
The CGI distortion for when he's getting fast, that wasn't the issue. I understand
that part is fine. It's the fucking
when you're in the Speed Force and you got 70 different faces of the same person, and you can't use a practical fucking effect for their face. Get the fuck out of here. And there's an entire scene at the beginning where he's showcasing the Flash skills and.
The babies?
Which is, yeah. Like, they like, when you try too hard, that's what you get. Like, listen, we know he's fast. We know it's like, time moves differently, and that's great. There's other ways to showcase it, but it was a little, like, ridiculously, like, over-the-top extra. Like, it was too much. And because the CGI is so fucking janky, I'm just watching this, I'm like, as soon as that scene was hitting, I'm like, is this really going to be the rest of the fucking movie? Is this what we're getting? Mm-hmm. And guess what? A lot of parts of it with the CGI, that's what you were getting. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you get to Keaton and everything. Just the entire demeanor of the movie changes for everybody watching as well too. Mm-hmm. It completely changed, and it became more some Batman. It was it had a good balance in there too. You had like somebody, you need somebody like Batman to kind of wrestle like Ezra in because he's a little kooky, mm-hmm. So that at least helped some of those sort of things. But at the end of the day, like while the story was all right, the Christmas Carol, that's pretty funny. But the movie was just another really meh DC movie. I'm glad. I'm excited for like rebooting the DCEU, and we're finally kind of pulling away from that. It's unfortunate that we get Keaton in this film, but fortunate because we got to see him don the cape and cowl again. But like, honestly, it doesn't do anything for it. The rest for any of it. It just took me, like, everything was just taking me out of the film. Like, it was hard to kind of be focused on it.
I want to touch on what Brian says. He goes, "Do you really think if it wasn't for Ezra, it would have been a commercial success?" The thing about that is, like, before all of his fucking bullshit, Ezra was still not a major draw. He was never a headliner. Before he turned into a fucking weirdo and started doing his shit, Ezra Miller was still not a draw. He's not a headline guy that'll carry a fucking movie. The big draw was Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
And even if you had replaced Ezra Miller, it's still going to be Michael Keaton. But then you also have the allure of the whole bad thing about DC movies. There's just a negative vibe. I wish I would have grabbed that graphic that
you do. I'll talk. It's maybe not.
But there's a graphic that shows like the best DC movie hasn't made as much as like the worst Marvel
or a mid-Marvel movie.
Or a mid-Marvel movie. I mean, there's just a stigma around DC movies that's working against it. Ezra is still, he's not a major star. The big draw here, man, honestly, was the promise of the DC being rectified and everything getting fixed, and Michael Keaton. That was it, dude. So I just don't understand. I mean, the DC does suck. It's not in a good place right now. Now, whether or not that changes with James Gunn and remains to be seen. But no, I don't think Ezra Miller, had he not been a fucking weirdo, that would have fixed anything. Whoever wanted to go see this movie before Ezra turned into a maniac wanted to see it because of Michael Keaton, and they still went and saw it, and it still wasn't enough.
The thing is that Ezra had the serious moments in this movie with Ezra were some of the best moments he's had in the DCU. because
he was all CGI. Crash.
They
most of those scenes where Affleck is riding around his bike, it's all CGI.
They literally had some really good serious moments where that character was really trying to intake. Like, I felt for the first time that those were some good moments from Ezra. But
he had some really good scenes.
But that's what I'm saying. But like, that doesn't mean he's a draw. Like, I can't think before that when they got casted for this, nobody was going like, man, I really hope somebody like Ezra Miller gets this role. Everybody wanted fucking Grant Gustin. Don't get me wrong, But if you're gonna bring a nobody and bring a good nobody in there, I don't. The problem with DC movies is that they've always had to rely on the because they're fantastical characters more so than Marvel. I think in some way they have to rely on CG, but their CGI team sucks, and at the end of the day, it's all just explosions and loud shit. Like, half the time you got to go like this in a DC movie because, like, whether it's this movie or Black Adam, it's just like a bunch of like blah blah blah, and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ.
I mean, these movies have all bombed. See, that's what I'm talking about. Black Adam bombed.
Yeah.
The Flash bombed. Who the fuck is seeing these movies going, yeah, let's do all CGI because look how well these have done?
I don't know. I don't know. It's just it's surprising. It's surprising to me that I don't know. I'm not surprised that it didn't do well. I mean, we called that after we saw that. You said, hey, this isn't going to make much money. You got all these little movies coming out, and it sure didn't. So, at this point, it's time to wipe the slate clean, move forward, with what Gunn is going to be doing as well too, and it's going to be hard pressed for me to spend money anymore to go see and talk about DC films. I feel like it's a waste of my time.
I feel bad for Michael Keaton in this for the same way I feel bad for Harrison Ford in Dial of Destiny.
Sure.
Awesome to see a legacy character, a big-time character, make his return to a fucking beloved role that everyone loved him in, only to be fucking let down by a goofy-ass story, bad CGI, and bad writing.
Yeah.
It's just, dude, I'm worried about Blue Beetle. I love the kid that's the lead. He's from Cobra Kai.
Yeah, and I actually think it looks like it could be a fun movie, but, like, once you see it, like, I mean, that's it. Like, you're seeing the trailer, and you're like, well, that's a DC movie now. You got to go in with earplugs, because you're going to be getting.
Dude,
less story
I honestly, legit, if you look at this just from a realistic perspective, The Flash brought back Michael Keaton as fucking Batman. Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
What is Blue Beetle gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
George Lopez ain't gonna get that draw.
His mullet might.
His mullet might. But I mean, just realistically speaking, I mean, look at that. It's just like,
yeah, the whole suit I think is CGI.
Like I said, man, I don't mind CGI when
like
it's used in a way to enhance scenes, to enhance the action. But when all you do, dude, like I said, I don't expect Michael Keaton to play the Batman and do the stunts like he did in Batman and Batman Returns. It's fucking 30 years later. He's an old fucking man. I get it. But, dude, a lot of the scenes where Batman's fighting is just CGI Batman. You can't tell me you can't put a fucking another actor in that suit and do some stunts?
Put a string on him. Yeah.
God damn, man. What happened to fucking Hollywood? I mean, I hope so, Trick. I mean, the DC needs a fucking hit. And I like that kid. And I think it's a good cast. I think it looks it's promising. But I think the DC has this stigma around it. And it doesn't have a big headliner as its lead. And it's coming out in a jam-packed summer. Wait, does it come out? It comes out August, doesn't it?
Maybe.
No, it's a packed summer. And it's already shaping up to be a packed fall. I just don't see that movie. Looking at The Flash right here, that's barely going to it just barely went over its budget, still hasn't figured in marketing yet.
Yeah, I really like Shazam myself too. I thought it was a great movie. I think it's very underrated and doesn't get enough love, but I mean, the second one came out and didn't do well either
Dude, that's the vibe around DC. It has nothing to do with whether or not the movie is actually good or not. It's just not drawing in people. And I mean, look, The Flash, I didn't think it was a horrific movie, but it was just kind of like, man, it was just more of the same from DC. So I don't know. I mean, when does Cobra Kai come out? I think January? Is that what I remember hearing? I think it's either December or January.
Maybe. Possibly.
I don't know. We haven't even gotten a fucking cheeser for that. Yes, Cherry or J Hill, we do have some positive reviews. We're going to move on from this, and we're going to get to our first semi-positive review, in my opinion anyways. Shut your whore mouth, Tricky. Woo! My, oh my. Cuddles comes out swinging. All right, guys, we're going to move on to our next movie review. This is a sequel, and a sequel that you and I were really excited about. The Wrath of Becky. The first one came out a couple years ago, and it was kind of like this fucking just wild movie because you have this girl who's like 16, and she's a fucking just, when she's a good girl, she's very good. But when she's bad, she's, what is it? She's an evil or some shit. She's like horrific or horrid. And, you know, cool, like we're getting another one. And what was cool about that one is you had Kevin James was like the bad guy, like this fucking just crazy ass dude. And I was like, oh man, that's kind of cool seeing him in that movie. And he gets his eye popped out and all that shit. And I was like, that's creepy and nasty. And it was good action. It was gory and it was real short. It was like 80 minutes. I was like, cool. This they understand what this movie is.
It's pretty straightforward.
It's a wink and a nod and have fun and watch people get killed. It's like, all right, cool. Yeah. So now Wrath of Becky has come out. And we have Sean William Scott, a.k.a. Stifler, is the big bad in this one. He's the bad guy in this one. And Tone, I enjoyed this movie, but I feel like it was a little too on the nose. Yeah. And it's leaning way more political than the first one. The first one, it was kind of like, these are shitty dudes, but we're going to see them get killed in horrific ways. And you're like, all right, cool. Like this one, you're like, okay, now I see what we're doing here. And it's just, I don't want to be bothered by the message or the satire too much. But when that's your main focal point, I was just like, okay, it's a little too on the nose.
Hopefully it's the key. I don't know, but at the end of the day, it definitely didn't have the I don't want to say the shine or polish as the first, but I think it's always tricky when you're doing a second film, as you know, because you can lose a little bit of that luster.
Yeah, you lose that shock and all.
Yeah, there's a little bit of loss in that as well too, and I don't know if it's just the direction she was went at. I don't know. Like, I enjoyed the movie as well.
80 minutes long, 80 some minutes.
There was, you got to suspend your disbelief, especially because it's because it is on the nose. It's being campy and goofy, kind of for some of the reasons that you would expect to when you're.
But they kind of set that up. When you're but it's a little bit more campy.
Yeah, when you're self-aware, that's it's one thing, and yeah, they kind of it kind of rides this tough line sometime about of like how political they want to go with this satire. So like, as somebody who's pretty deep into kind of that like realm anyways, but you know, sometimes I like it when it's subtle, not when it's fucking like ha, you know. And again, that depends on the film. In a film like this, I'm not really looking for
especially
that.
we live in Michigan, we can kind of relate to some of that, but
right. The bad guys are definitely something that's probably down the block, but you know, I think it still worked in the film. It's just, you know, we got to be careful how far we go away from it. So now, is it a great movie? Is it as good as the first Becky? I don't think so.
No, it's not.
Was it an all right sequel for a movie like that? I do think so. You know, I tell everybody, watch the movie. It's you know what you're getting. It's satire. It's gory. It's she's a fucking 18-year-old girl now who's a killing machine. So hey,
and people get their just desserts.
Yeah,
and you know, and it's cool. Stifler's good with it. I feel like Kevin James was given a little bit more to be more menacing. Like Stifler had he was more of like a calm, subtle menacing.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Like I thought that like it was almost like they were trying to like say people are gonna expect this.
Yeah, tone it down a little. Don't be yourself.
Like,
don't be Stifler.
Yeah, and
which I get. It's fine. You can't be Stifler in this.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. But hey, there wasn't CGI blood in it. That's a win.
Seriously. And also, man, I mentioned this to you. Cherry, it's weird. Like he's good. Like you're like, okay, cool. Yeah, he plays the role.
Like
to
I kind of
want to
see him in some range now.
Yeah,
like,
I want to see him a little more menacing.
I want to see something like that. Yeah, or Bulletproof Monk too.
It's a fun movie. It's a fun 80 minutes. But dude, I was telling you this after we saw the movie. There's one guy. It's like Stifler's right hand man. And I was looking at him, I was like, this guy looks so, I mean, he's like this ginger, and like, he's just kind of like this backwards ass, like just
Walker.
What you think you would be. And I was like, why does he look so fucking familiar? And then I looked it up and I was like, holy shit. Now I don't know if everyone here loves the Burbs, but the Klopeks are the neighbors next door, and their one son, I can't remember his name in the movie, but at the end of it is when, Bruce Dern, he's trying to see me. He's like, "Hey, Pinocchio, where are you going?" And he goes and tackles him. He's the Klopek kid, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Courtney Gaines is in this. I was like, and then who else is at the diner? Dave.
Oh, fucking Dave Dave Thomas, the old
Thomas.
Canadian comedian who used to be
with
part of the
what's that?
the
Strange Brew.
Hosers.
With Rick Moranis.
Yeah, with Rick Moranis. And I was like, as soon as I saw him, like, I thought he was dead.
And he was.
yeah. Well, there it is.
Yeah, just a weird cameo. Like he's in it. I thought maybe like I was like, oh, I wonder if he's like the big guy.
I was hoping more because not
that Wendy's guy.
I
Did you ever see? I have to believe at least 2 people in here have seen
Strange
Strange Brew.
Yeah.
But he was also on, what was it?
SCTV.
SCTV.
Yeah, he was a big
That's
guy
where
on
he was
SCTV.
really big on SCTV.
Big 80s like comedian, late 70s or whatever. He was all part of that whole.
No, everyone thinks Wendy's when you hear Dave Thomas, but if you guys have ever seen Strange Brew with Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas as his partner in crime, it was kind of like a early Wayne's World type of thing.
But like Canadian hockey fans. Yeah.
And wasn't Christopher Plummer the bad guy? Or Max von Sydow? Max von Sydow was the bad guy, the guy that in charge of the brewery where they were doing all the fucking evil shit.
Yeah. I watched more SCTV.
Man.
long ago, but like that's where like guys like John Candy and like and like
I think Eugene Levy was big there too.
Eugene Levy was another one of those guys that started at SCTV, so that's aging us as well.
Either Bill Murray or Chevy Chase start there too before they went to?
I don't think so.
Or was it Dan Aykroyd? I think Dan Aykroyd started at SCTV before he went to Saturday Night Live.
Dan might have been, but I know
there's a hefty crew of people that started at SCTV. And some of them, I think, migrated over to Saturday Night Live.
You know, Bill and Chevy got in some shit.
Man, I love that story, how they got in that fight and everything. But then they get together for Caddyshack, and that scene where they're where Chevy Chase or Ty hits into Bill Murray's like his house. That's all improv. There's no script for that scene. They were just like, look, we got to get a scene with you guys together. You guys are both in this movie, and they're like, yeah, we'll do it. And like everything you see. From the moment he walks into like Bill Murray's place,
that's awesome.
So we leave they were just like just wing it, and it's all improv from start to finish.
That's funny,
and you can just see for a moment the chemistry between two like comedic legends doing improv. I was just like, dude, that was like a couple years after they got into that fight.
Yeah.
So for them to come together and do an improv scene in that movie, I was like, dude, that's wild.
It was confirmed this week by Joel McHale that Chevy Chase will not be in the Community movie that they're working on. Which
really?
Most of us don't really care. I mean, it kind of sucks that he's not going to be around, but like he's such a like Joel McHale is pretty open about how shitty it was to work
Joel
with him.
McHale was in the first Becky. Remember, he's the dad.
Oh yeah, it's fucking random. Yeah, that's right, because they showed us clip from that. I'm like, oh yeah, he was the dad.
He's the dad. He gets pieced out.
Okay, well that's fucking full circle. All right.
What a weird that's what I like about the Becky movies. They're just so weird casting.
Yeah.
You get these funny guys like Kevin James is a psycho and Joe McHale's playing the serious dad.
Whatever.
Chevy Chase is a dick. He's got a very bad reputation in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, in Hollywood.
The older he gets.
Yeah.
Remember that picture we saw recently of him and Randy Quaid?
Yeah, Randy Quaid apparently, did he pay his taxes?
He paid his taxes and he lost like 300 pounds because he was he was a big dude. Now he's just like all skinny, but he's still got the Santa Claus beard.
Yeah.
But him and Chevy Chase together was like, Randy's still alive and nobody's trying to kill him anymore.
2 pieces of shit together in one photo. Good
Did
for
you remember that when Randy Quaid was going around saying Hollywood had a hit squad after him?
Oh, he was nuts.
That's why they ran to fucking Canada and stopped paying their shit because Hollywood's trying to kill us. And I was just like, man, Cousin Eddie went fucking crazy, dude.
A little too much of the eggnog.
He went nuts.
Anyways.
Anywho, decent movie. Not as good as the first, but it's worth the watch if it's Saturday night and you got a couple beers and you want to watch 80 minutes of a little girl killing a bunch of people in horrific fashion.
Good times.
It's dude. I will say there is one part that is fucking hilarious when she has the Klopek kid on the ground.
Yeah.
And she's like, what's your son's name?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
It's got some good laughs in it, but it's just not as good as the first one. All right. Finally, some good news. Some positive news. A positive review. Extraction 2. We got more Tyler Drake. We got Chris Hemsworth back.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom, I'll let you start off with this, man.
You know, it was funny because I remember specifically us talking about Extraction and being like, you know, because we were even wondering, because did it get green light right after launch?
I think it was shortly after because that was one of the big COVID movies that went to Netflix.
Right, because we were like, okay, how are they going to do that after the ending of that? We were like,
he's bleeding out through like a fucking artery, like he's bleeding out.
Right. You know, I liked the first one. We said, you know, like it was a COVID movie made for Netflix.
It was
and
Call
like
of
that.
Duty.
It wasn't, you know, it wasn't nothing grandiose. It had some really good choreography in it. There was a couple scenes even in that first one. And honestly, this one actually kind of lived up to kind of the first one. I felt personally like I don't think these movies are like, any crazy like action film movies that have these great stories that you're gonna remember by. But for modern day versions of these, honestly, like I thought it was a good movie. Like I enjoyed it. There was some really good action scenes in it. Again, there was some like ridiculousness and like how frequently some of these people kept like.
But they established that in the first one. Like this is a ridiculous Call of Duty movie.
Kinda, yeah. And you know what? And again, if you're being self-aware about that, then I appreciate that. Like honestly, the first of all, the prison fight scene.
Oh yeah, the 15-minute tracking shot. That's fucking impressive.
I'm gonna get respect. I'll give respect where it needs to be due on that, no matter what. Like that was impressive. And you know what? Yeah. And it's cool to watch. Like his arm catches on fire. We saw in the trailer. Arm catches on fire. He's not paying attention. He's just punching with him. Like that's fucking cool. Like it's just a dumb little thing, but that was fucking cool. The entire train scene felt like a fucking Call of Duty video game.
And it did.
But they realize it. They're self-aware about it.
And even Chris Hemsworth, like when he's going through it, you're just like he's naturally into it, but it's not like you're like, oh my god, this is a serious. Like he's just eating up the fucking goofiness.
Dude, fuck yeah, why not? And we got some better background story with his past and stuff like that. It wasn't a lot. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong.
It's 90s action through and through. It's a 90s
Scorsese's not writing
movie.
it, I know, but like honestly, for what it's worth with these movies so far, you're getting what you're seeing here. You're seeing what you're getting, whatever the adage is. And you know what? If you look at it like I mean, Call of Duty campaigns are pretty fucking fun and nuts anyways.
Yeah, they're over the top.
Why not? And you know what? I'm here for it. So, if we're getting more, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see. You may have some news on that. Hey, why not? Let's do it.
Extraction 3 was announced like the day after this movie came out. It was a massive hit for Netflix. And the thing is, man, like I love going to a theater and watching something like Mission Impossible. I know that on an IMAX screen is going to be fucking mind-blowing shit. I'm watching this at home on a big screen downstairs, and I was like, you know what, dude? Stop it, Carlos. That would be a terrible thing. But like this is it's a fun homage to 90s action movies. Just action, a little bit of story to kind of move things forward. Try to give Tyler Drake a little bit of character, but it's just like, look, man, this isn't fucking Forrest Gump. This isn't fucking like some deep character, but they give him just enough, and thankfully, Chris Hemsworth has the range to really sell those scenes.
I love Hemsworth. He's
a good actor. He's a really good actor.
I really do.
And the thing that I love about that 15-minute tracking shot is you don't even need to bring in a fucking stunt double. That is Chris Hemsworth through the entire thing. And I feel like that's what's really cool. Because like when you see a lot of movies, when it does the quick edit cuts, that's not so-and-so, whatever actor they have in doing the fighting. It's somebody else, and they're just cutting away. This is just 15 minutes of just, let's follow Chris Hemsworth. And, I mean, like, look, man, not only is it tough to stage a 15-minute tracking shot, because if one person fucks up anything, run it back.
How he was even using the lady as like part of that, like all of that was actually very impressive. Like I was impressed by that entire scene, and listen, I feel like there were moments of this movie where I was more dialed in than this movie than I was the first movie.
Oh, yeah.
So
you do what you're supposed to do in a sequel. You take everything that was great about the first one, and I use great loosely, but what's entertaining about the first one, and build upon it, raise the budget, and you're good to go.
Exactly. Extraction's like buying a fake Gucci bag. Yeah, it looks good, but it's no good. Like, I know I'm buying a fake Gucci bag, but everybody else at the party isn't going to know it's a fake Gucci bag, right?
You buy a Gucci bag, it's Gukki. Like, yeah, right. It's Gucci.
Yeah, it's a Gucci bag. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Go get some fucking mashed potatoes, Grandma, and leave me alone.
That is 100%. And now the thing is, like, after watching that movie, I've actually watched it twice now. I think it's a good fit for, like, watching at home on Netflix. I don't know if that movie would translate as well to a big screen experience. I actually think like if you were to watch it on the big screen, you'd be like, man, this actually pales in comparison to something like John Wick or Mission Impossible, because there is a lot of CGI in it, but it's still like some cool practical effects. And I like how it might have CGI, but like you have a fucking 15-minute tracking shot. That takes skill. That's something I can appreciate. That is something that most movies won't even attempt to do. So that part of stuff, as a fan of film, I'm like, I like that they took that risk and it paid out. Yeah, some of this, like you said, some of the stuff is over the top, but the movie is based on a movie that was already over the top in the first place. I don't expect this to turn into a fucking Oscar movie anytime soon. I want 90 minutes or to 2 hours of just fucking balls to the wall action.
Yep.
And if you want to give me some 90s action movie backstory, we're like, oh, I'm sad, and he's a flawed man, and there he got his motivation to kill everyone. Cool, I'm done. I'm good.
Even like the stuff with the kids, I thought was like, it wasn't like Oscar-winning story writing, but that was cool. You had the uncle tempting the nephew. Like, I just thought there was some neat nuances, and the car chase scenes were kind of cool too, because he'd just be like, blump, or whatever, like taking out another vehicle. Like, I don't know.
I watch a lot of movies that are in one take. Granted, the hub is making me sign in now.
Oh, yeah, you're in Virginia. Oh, yeah.
Got that hub.
Oh, yeah,
a lot of one takes in that one.
VA, yeah.
But no, man, I thought it was entertaining. Like I said, Chris Hemsworth is a presence. He can act. He does great in the scenes that require him to show a little bit of range, but you're here to see Chris Hemsworth kick ass, and he does it through the entire movie. And it's just a mindless action film, and I think, like I said, it builds upon what made the first one entertaining.
Netflix.
And Extraction 3 is probably going to they're going to take what they saw from Extraction 2 and build upon it and make it even better. Yeah. So I'm excited for it. I'm sure they'll probably start working on that right away, and that'll be out sometime next year. But no, Chris Hemsworth, Extraction 2 on Netflix, definitely worth a watch, Tone.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Tone, moving on to our last topic. I think you have a little bit to say about it, but we'll see.
I have a couple words.
He has a couple words. All right, guys and girls. Now, the last time we hung out, we talked about our impressions of the Final Fantasy XVI demo.
Yes.
We played through a little bit of the beginning. Those saves carried over, and then later on in the demo, we got to explore more of the icon abilities that you unlock along the way. Brian MX is ready to go. So here we are. I don't know, how far are you into the game? Would you say about 20 hours, probably?
Roughly, maybe. It's been tough to get as much game time as I've wanted in the last few weeks, just generally.
Cherry says y'all need a segment of throwback movies or shows. We did have B&B quickies. Remember we used to do those quickies where I touch on like The Relic, and you did Drive. We should do. I wouldn't mind revisiting those at some point. I did like doing the B&B quickies. Those were fun.
I agree.
But here we go. So, like, Final Fantasy 16 came out. We both jumped into it. I'm about 36 hours into it. I think I'm at, like, I know it's a longer game than that, but, I jump into that. The world is as linear as it is. I'm exploring, like, every nook and cranny.
Remember that word. That's a good word.
That's a very good word. And I'm probably about 36 hours into it. I think it says I'm at, like, 50% or 55% or something of that nature. So I'm still making my way through it. Now, look. I'm going to preface this by saying that I have completed 0 Final Fantasy games. 0, Tone. I have finished 0 of them. I played a good portion of 7 Remake. I put a lot of time into Final Fantasy 14. I dabbled with Final Fantasy 10 because it was on the PlayStation Vita for a little bit. But I am by no means a Final Fantasy connoisseur. I am not somebody's going to go, hey, dude, what do you think about Final Fantasy? Are you a big fan of the series? I'll be like, I don't know. I heard they're cool. But I have never really played it. I almost picked up the remasters. I almost picked up the Pixel remasters just so I can indulge and find out what it's all about. So, I hop into Final Fantasy 16. I was not a fan of Devil May Cry 5, but I knew there was a lot of inspiration going into the combat here. And having played about 36 hours into this game, I will say this. I have gotten accustomed to the combat. Mind you, I know what the combat is like in Final Fantasy games because I have played Octopath Traveler 2, so I have an understanding of how that combat plays, and I do understand the appeal of it. But I am not a long-time Final Fantasy guy where I'm like, I remember this one way, and it's kind of like my love for Indiana Jones. I remember this one way, and if I was somebody who understood and appreciated the early Final Fantasy games, I would probably feel a little bit differently about this. But as somebody who is not like that, I'm just like, cool, man, I'm mashing buttons, and I've actually kind of gotten accustomed to the combat. But the biggest thing for me with Final Fantasy 16, as cool as the combat is, and the boss battles, the icon battles are fucking sweet, the story is what has its hooks in me right now. It is a very compelling Game of Thrones-y type of story. Great voice acting, great writing, some very compelling stuff going on. Like, there are a couple of fucking side quests in this game that literally had me going, Jesus Christ, they really went there. I was like, man, that is some dark shit. There's a small village that you go to. I can't remember the name of the quest. I had him on Twitter where you kind of find out what some people are doing with these bearers. And I was just like, oh, this fucking town sucks, man. Can I just fucking nuke this town? So, I mean, the story has me into it. The combat, as I add more icon stances, if you will, to it, I get a little bit more confused, but I'm still trying to figure out how to. The one most important thing, and I mentioned this to you before, and I think you've gotten to that point on one of the abilities, is that the stances are kind of like built around certain styles of play. Some are defensive, some are more offensive, some are built for more aerial combat. As you're unlocking some of the abilities that go with that, once you master them, you can kind of move them around to different icons. So, like, for example, I can't remember, Garuda has an ability where you can create like a tornado.
Right.
And then I'm okay, cool. I'm going to switch over to, I can't remember what it is with the first character, the Phoenix, where you kind of spin around. Because the tornado, when the characters are all flying around, it's hard to target one person.
Sure.
But if you got them all spinning around and you use that Phoenix jump where you do the twirls in the air in the tornado, you can do massive damage to them. So, like, being Scarlet Cyclone, thank you. So when you move those around to kind of find that synergy with the icon, like, ultimate abilities with the other abilities from the other classes, once I start to get the feel, I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm kind of digging this combat. So it's very rewarding in that regard. So it's got good combat, takes some getting used to, which is not to be confused with. It's a great replacement for what makes Final Fantasy Final Fantasy. But for somebody who's just like into action games like God of War, where I'm just more button mashing, but I am learning to become a little bit more strategic with my mashing, so to speak, I'm digging it. And I think it has a really great story, and I'm really enjoying it. I think it looks beautiful. It's the setting is gorgeous. It's a good-looking game. I'm having a lot of fucking fun with it. Yeah. What the fuck is an icon? I'll let Tone get into that when he gets to this part. But Tone, as somebody who has played several Final Fantasy games, and you've been there from the beginning, you've been a fan, I understand that you have a different perspective on things, and I think that's the beauty of it, is because that's what you get from us. You get one perspective and you get another. I want to get your thoughts on Final Fantasy 16 from what
I'm always going to preface this with being that, and Cuddles even alluded to, that I played Final Fantasy 1 the first week it was launched. We got that on Nintendo. We're up to 5. I've talked about this before. That's why I've got so many fond memories of this series. Super Nintendo is still my favorite system of all time because of that high peak of the old school JRPGs that we were getting over here as well too, and it kind of hit that boom, and that kind of started getting the hooks and stuff. The games started to really see themselves take foot here in North America. And then of course, you start seeing these DS releases, and then of course PlayStation comes out and you get Final Fantasy VII, which was originally actually being developed on the Nintendo Ultra 64, but some backdoor stuff happened with Nintendo and Squaresoft, and then ended up going to PlayStation, and they developed on the disc because they could put more content on it. Blah blah blah. And 7 was another, like, one of those eye-opening games where you're like, Jesus Christ, like, this is where this has gone to now, right? And the thing that's always made Final Fantasies what is Final Fantasy is a great story. And so that's always going to be important. So far, the story is very compelling. We know that already. But along those lines are certain tropes, the icons, which are originally like summons,
summons,
that you originally get. Now they've kind of taken that in a different direction. They've been doing that for a while with some of like the online games and stuff like that as well too. And they've kind of just evolved in different ways, which is fine as far as that goes. But the big piece of it has always been the combat, and that's the piece of it. System and that's the piece of it that I take the biggest issue with this game. I will also say, to start off, this to me is not a numbered Final Fantasy, and it shouldn't be. It should be a actiony or named something differently. Had the combat been more like maybe 7 Remake, where there's a slow down strategic part of it, because the reality is with this game, and I tested it a couple times by doing the different difficulty, and just button mashing. This game really doesn't outside of some, like, listen, in God of War, you can't just, but you can button mash.
You can, but not later on in the difficulties.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard to be proficient in that. And I know, I'd imagine at some point there is some proficiency in this, but the way that this game feels so light and fluid, and like, the moves just get like so. It's almost at times like, yes, you can link the stuff together, but it also doesn't overly matter. Like, the combat, honestly, when I was fighting Garuda, I literally thought, just flashed in my mind, this is Devil May Cry 4. I remember this battle. And listen, I know the director, he's the one that's involved in this, and I get it. But, like, Final Fantasies have slowly evolved ever since, honestly, since Enix picked up, or the merger or whatever. And there's a distinct difference of people that play these games at this point. There are guys like me who've been playing them forever, who like the old style combat, that like a good listen. And I'll be honest when I say this, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy II, those stories, if modernized properly, would match the games now, this game included, because in MIDI sounds and in 16-bit sprites, they could still tell amazing stories.
Right. Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So we're just limited at that point to graphics, to technology, or whatever that is. But the problem here is that since the Enix merger, what's happened to Final Fantasies is that they've become linear. And that's all. Like when I first played 10, that was my first thing about it. Was like, why am I in a hallway? I mean, while this game has,
I do remember that too. When
this,
I was
this game has big areas.
Yeah.
But it's not open world
right.
either. Like, you know, like I felt like they're a hallway's a hallway no matter how big it is. At the end of the day, this is a hallway. You're still playing in a hallway. You're going to point A and point B and never really getting the opportunity. Like, yeah, side quests give you some this, that, and the other, but like how often, like, and I haven't seen a whole lot of it yet, do you go off the beaten path or have the ability to and find out all of a sudden like this crazy side quest of something and saying, oh my God, this was worth me going off the beaten path. There's reward for that. And like I said, I don't know if I'm far enough to where that has happened, but so far it's been pretty like, oh, here's your spoon-fed side quest. You can do it if you want.
Right.
You know, and that
it's spoon-fed, but even though the story behind it is good. Like I said, some of the side quests are fucking deep, but I agree with you. It's mostly fetch quests. Go and get this, bring this here.
No, Brian, I will respectfully disagree with that because Final Fantasy VII, once you get out of Midgar, while you're supposed to go to certain points, there are things that you can do, whether go to the Golden Saucer, go to the tower defense game, different areas as well that you want as well, too.
I'm going to answer that, Cherry, but hold on a second. I'm going to let him go.
Like, if they're trying to tell a specific story in this and you're saying that, then this isn't a normal Final Fantasy. And honestly, I'm not the only one that says that. There are people out there, and I can't debate them, that say when 11 came out, people were like, this is not a fucking Final Fantasy because it's not MMORPG. I played 11. I've pretty much played 80-85% of the Final Fantasies that's come out. There's only maybe 3 that I haven't actually played of the actual numerical. You know, I played Crisis Core. I've played Type 0. I've played some of these other side ones as well too. Fuck, I even played Dissidia, which is a fighting game, right? This is not a numbered Final Fantasy to me, and honestly, 15 for some people felt like that it necessarily wasn't either. And that's kind of hard to debate that as well too. I enjoyed 15 a lot. 15 had a lot of potential. That's a whole other topic. It gets to a certain point and the chapters just kind of rush you through the game. Like I said, that's a whole other topic though. This game, while being a action game, and honestly, I'm enjoying it. Like it's fun. Like I'm not saying I don't dislike the game at all. Especially with like the story and everything going on, I can see why it appeals to people this day and age in gaming because people can't play. I'm a strategist. When I play games, my favorite games are board games, and they're strategy board games that will take. I'm thinking 2 or 3
You're
moves
like my
ahead.
brother. My brother can't stand like he likes the strategy thinking stuff.
Yeah, I'm a and then that's where like I played Octopath Traveler again this week and probably put another 10 hours this last weekend in,
Which is a great game.
Right, and there's some Final Fantasy folks out there too. Like, well, it's kind of like pitch. It still gives you that isn't as open as world as it could be either, and I recognize that. But what I will say is that like it's got a diverse cast of characters that you can actually control, play, and level up properly and build the way you want to. You know, you can do that in here with this one single character that you get in the points. But again, Strangers of Paradise recently came out as a Final Fantasy game, and they didn't put a number on that. And it's a prequel to the first Final Fantasy, and they didn't put a number on that, and it plays similar to this. You know, now again, I feel like this would have been better if it had been Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy Story. It shouldn't be a full-fledged
Bearers Armageddon,
whatever. Were they testing the waters of Strangers in Paradise? Maybe. Strangers in Paradise isn't a bad game either. I was actually enjoying it. I liked the neat concept of it being a prequel of the first one, but it wasn't 16, it wasn't 17, it wasn't numbered. I just feel like at this point, ever since Enix has gotten them, they've always been trying to take it in different directions and evolve. And I get that. I do. The problem is that 13, there's so many people out there that don't like the game. For every person that says they like 13, there's 2 or 3 people in line that says, yeah, the game sucks. Played it for 20 minutes, never touched it again. I tried. It wasn't that good. So,
Brian, I would argue, though, and I haven't played it, this is based on what I've heard, though, Final Fantasies 1 through 6 were big games as well. They weren't side games. They were full-fledged games that had a unique style of combat that is different than what we're seeing in Final Fantasy 16 or even 15 for that matter. They were huge games. They weren't side games.
So
they
was
were
8,
massive games.
So was 9.
Yeah.
You know, but 10 was really the first one that made these. Like I said,
Narrowed it down
I'll
a
never
little
forget
bit.
looking at the map and going like, do I even get an airship I can fly in this game? Like, and you kind of do.
You do not,
but like,
sir.
Right. You know, but it's so fucking linear. And this game's a bigger version of that. It's just it happens to be a Devil May Cry Lite. I've played 1, 2 parts of 3, parts of 4, and parts of 5. You know, Devil May Cry, and that literally that fight with Garuda. And I think I messaged you too, and I said this just reminds me of Devil May Cry. And I'm not saying that's bad, but what I'm saying is that like.
That's the biggest thing that I think people need to understand is you're not saying it's a bad game.
Correct.
But it's just not what you expect from Final Fantasy. Much like Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny is not what I expect from an Indiana Jones movie.
Right.
It's very simple.
You can tell me that, hey, Tone, I'm making you a steak dinner tonight. Could have potato, could have carrots. Fuck it, he can have the steak. But you got that steak at Dollar General, and it's still a Dollar General steak at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's my point with this. They got Moogles, they got Chocobos, they call the
Torgal, we got Torgal.
You know what I mean? Like all that. Yeah, he's a good boy. But you got all those things. You can put as much things on it to look like Final Fantasy. That don't mean it's Final Fantasy either. And I will again say that I feel like elements of 15 felt more like an old school Final Fantasy, even though the combat was more like Kingdom Hearts. I'd rather have that combat in this game and feel more comfortable playing that and calling it a numbered Final Fantasy. But like I said, that game is a whole other mess. That's a whole other topic. You know, 14 is one of my all-time favorite MMOs. And there's a lot of people.
Having played 14, I get some vibes from 14 in this game when I'm exploring
because the writer
is the same guy.
He's and you know, a lot of the newer age folks in Final Fantasy really revere him, and he's done a great. Like, listen, 14 is literally an homage to just like to new and old school Final Fantasy fans. It's really a love letter to Final Fantasy overall. That's why it's one of the few MMOs out there that still pay to play, and they make money off of it because it's revered and done so well. But I just don't feel like at the end of the day, like big story, great story, a couple Moogles here or there, a couple Chocobos. That doesn't mean it's a Final Fantasy to me, and it won't be. And like, I'll still play the game. I'll beat the game or whatever like that, you know. But like, it's gonna be a hard press as somebody who's played literally almost 100% all numbered Final Fantasies and a lot of the side ones for somebody to say, man, this Final Fantasy 16 is a great entry in the number. Because I mean, I'm one of the rarities. I have a problem with 10. I don't like emo protagonists. I've talked about that before. I don't like how linear that game is.
Relax, Cherry. He's not targeting you.
It had a great like ability system in it as well too. Like with the licenses, it's actually quite brilliant. But you know, again, like when you take out certain big pieces and certain elements, it just doesn't feel the same anymore.
Sure.
And like I said, I will literally like. Here's the thing: Final Fantasy VI was released in the United States on Super Nintendo as Final Fantasy 3 in 1994. That was my birthday gift on December 1st of that year. I think it was 94, 95, because it was released in Japan and we had to wait a while. Anyways, I digress. But that's my favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
And there's not even a game
6?
that's even close. 6 is my favorite video game of all time.
Oh, wow.
Nothing
Okay.
is even close to that echelon. And it's because you got a cast of 12 to 14 characters who in a 16 sprite game can tell dark sides of characters about death and like growth and character development and friends and the value of all those things together. Oh, by the way, also having to fight the most maniacal, chaotic, evil Joker style villain of all time, one of the top 2 or 3 of the series, next to guys like Sephiroth. And it can tell stories as well as this as well too. And that was done on the Super Nintendo. So, you know, again, the story is not the problem with this game. It's just that we've gone into a place with video games now, and the people that I find, it's ironic, I find that just like when 7 came out, when you ask people, well, what Final Fantasy did you play before 7? Well, I didn't. Okay, fine. Or 10 comes out, what games you played before 10? Well, I didn't. Okay. And it's going to be the same way with this game.
It's like, and dude, that's like me. Like I'm really enjoying 16. Like, how many do you play? Like, I can say 14. I played a considerable amount. I played for a long time. 7, I've played. Not terribly. I'm decent far into it, but I can't sit there and tell you what 1 through 9 or any of those, like other than the remake, which doesn't even count as 7. Really, I mean, it's different than what 7 was as a game when it launched.
Right.
So I can't really say that. So I mean, I can sit there and say I'm having a great time with it. I think it's an amazing game.
Sure.
But I don't have the same context as you, so obviously I'm have a different perspective.
So if somebody says this is the best Final Fantasy entry of all time, I'm probably going to be triggered by that because I'm like, okay, well, what did you play?
Right.
And that's my point. Like,
you're not saying they're wrong, but you're not saying
where's that perspective? Like, I need perspective on that because I have played most of them, and I've played the online games, and I've played a lot of the side ones, and 8 is one I do want to come back around to. It's actually funny that you mentioned that because 8 is one that I played for about an hour and a half and was like, what the fuck is this draw system?
Oh no!
But
sound is bad. Okay, time out. We'll let him cool off for a sec.
I'm cool.
We're gonna see if we can fix this. I'm gonna see if I can fix this because we did something before the show started. And we'll see if it works. Hang on.
Is it story? How about now?
What's it? Oh no. Let's see. Sound. The game busted the audio. Let's see. Properties. Okay, so we're gonna go over. I'm just trying this. I have no idea if this works or not. No idea. This didn't work. I'm trying to find like quick fixes. I'm assuming it still sounds like shit, correct? Yes? Still shit? Square Enix is attacking them bastards. Still bad? Okay. All right, hang on a sec, guys. Hang on. Whoa, wait. How does that sound? Is it the distorted voice or is it robot voice? Because you guys know it's distorted. It's like I'm talking like this. Deep voice? Okay. We're making progress. Deep as hang on. Testing. Still deep or is it clean? Clean or deep? Still annoying or kind of clean? God dang! Darn it. Hang on a sec. Sorry, y'all.
I wanna make love to you, woman. I wanna lay you down by the fire.
It's bad. All right, guys, hang on. The fuck did I do last time? I already did the one thing, so clean and deep, just the way I like it. Yeah. Hang on. It never ends. Let's try this. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Test. Still deep? Tone, give a deep thing.
I wanna make love to you, woman. I wanna lay you down
dang
by
it.
the fire.
All right, guys. One more time. Hang on. Testing. Clean. I can't count without using my fingers. Deep voice or clean voice? Deep voice or clean voice? If it's still deep, I'm gonna. God damn it! Okay, hang on, guys. I'm gonna try something out. Like seriously, I'm just shooting from the hip here. I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, multi-channel.
Deep edition.
I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. That'd be bad. I'd probably take us offline. I'll do that. Hold on, guys. Tone's got thoughts. We just gotta fix this.
Not much.
You're doing good.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty much done.
Oh, you know what? Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do the one thing. Sometimes this works. Audio.
We'll see.
Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Microphone. Change this to...
Oh, yeah, Ocean.
Apply.
That's funny.
Testing. How is that? Testing.
Testes.
For reals? Hang on. Test. How is it now?
Wait, people are playing this game in English? That's weird.
Oh, come on, dude. Don't be that guy.
Too late.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
It's deep.
There has to be a method to the madness here. Bring your voices. I'm trying. Taking your shirt off. Hang on, guys. I apologize. We're going to use a new interface next episode, and if that's not it, then we got to take the computer in because clearly something is amiss.
Yeah, I told dude should threaten the Geek Squad.
I'm going to, man. I'm going to threaten them all. Says defaults. And let's go in here. Properties. I'm going to change it to this. Fuck it. We'll do it. And we'll go back to this. Yeah. How about now, kids? How about now? Still deep. Am I going to get a break? What?
No, did you fix it?
What?
Oh, there you go.
Does that sound good? Simple and clean. Tone, talk.
There we go. Hello.
Okay, we're going to finish it. Tone, continue.
Yeah. Bottom line for me, I'm enjoying the game. Devil May Cry's had good stories as well too. Gameplay is what it is. Feels like Devil May Cry basically to me. Hard buy-in for me to say that this is a numbered Final Fantasy, and I do recognize that Final Fantasy since the last X amount of entries, decade and a half, 2 decades almost, has been going a different direction. I get that, but I've also seen the creme de la creme, and that is also before 7 as well too. So, you know, I just feel like it's a shame because I feel like this is shadowing gamers as a whole about casual gaming and the pace of gaming and what people are able to have the patience to play. I feel like this game would have benefited a lot more with, especially with one person in your party, with a Final Fantasy VII remake style where it kind of slows down a little bit.
Yep.
Because again, even 15, while, you know, also something that some folks just didn't overly enjoy, you had a party that you could still do commands and stuff like that, though it was kind of weak. So
right.
It's just a shame that, you know, Final Fantasies are going this direction. I said this before. They're literally selling Final Fantasy as a name at this point.
Right.
Sure, it's got a great story. Awesome. The combat's good too. Don't get me wrong. But they're just selling the name at this point because, like I said, you can have all the tropes you want. You can have all the icons, the summons, the Moogles, which, by the way, Moogles are so stupid compared to what they used to be on the Super Nintendo. They would at least, like, talk and have, like, full conversations, but it seems like, but that's another topic. But, you know, at the end of the day, you still got the Octopath Travelers, the Triangle Strategies, which are basically like the tactics versions, clearly, of that. You know, they don't have enough faith in those products anymore to call them Final Fantasies. And I think that's a damn shame because that just shows that people, like, you can't get to where you are now by forgetting where you came from.
Yep.
And that's what this series has done for a while for me. And it's been ups and downs, I feel like, as well, too. And like I said, I've played most of them. tried to give most of them a shot. Some of them, it was a hard time. I got halfway through 10 and said, I like Blitzball way better than this stupid fucking main character. And I couldn't deal with that anymore. He had daddy issues, and I got sick of hearing about it. He's a crybaby.
I'm going to circle back to what Cherry Squishy asked earlier. She said, well, what's more important, combat or story? And really, it depends on the game. It really does. Because, like, if I'm playing Call of Duty, I know I'm not getting a fucking story. I mean, I'm getting a story, but I'm not getting a compelling story. I'm just getting high-octane action, so I want the combat to be fucking tight. But when it comes to something like, from my experience, God of War, it's got to have a good story, and it has to have solid combat. And like Final Fantasy for Tone, the early Final Fantasy games had both that. They had good combat from what he expects from a Final Fantasy game. Now, look, I think it has good combat in Final Fantasy 16, but I don't have the context that Tone has playing what made Final Fantasy so special a long time ago. So it really just depends. They're not bad stories, but I mean, like, look, they're just stupid. They're just dumb action, and you're there for their. You're not sitting there going, God, I really hope Soap McTavish can make it through. I'm just there to blow shit up and enjoy the awesome set pieces. That's what I expect from a Call of Duty game. I don't expect Oscar writing. But you can do compelling stories. I thought Gears of War 5 had a fucking awesome story, which was a huge step up because the combat's always been good in Gears.
Yeah.
But then they started adding stories, so it's like, oh my God, now you have both?
Yeah.
That's fucking sweet. It just depends where the game started, what the series has always been known for. If it's known for combat, it better fucking keep building on that combat, but remember its roots. And then you can add story to it later. But if it has a good story and you want to build upon the combat and make the combat better, but I mean, by all accounts, Final Fantasy combat has always been revered. So was it really necessary to change it as drastic as it does? Because when I play fucking Octopath Traveler 2, that's a lot different than when I'm playing with Final Fantasy 16. And Octopath Traveler 2 is very reminiscent and very similar to the older Final Fantasy.
For whatever reason, when Kingdom Hearts came around, I feel like they've been trying to replicate that, like, that kind of style of combat, the action-y combat, because I feel like they don't feel like it's going to sell continuing going forward. The difference with something like God of War, though, is God of War took itself, and the core of God of War is still there in every way. Even the combat, they literally just put the camera over your shoulder and gave you more RPG options in the fucking game. That's what they did.
Right.
And actually tighten up the combat in some way too, because you can button mash through that as well too, but like you're not gonna be proficient in it, and you're gonna have some tough times as well too. But like I said, already from my experience with this game, it's just like, and there's listen, I'm in probably about 3 or 4 different like JRPG and Final Fantasy groups on Facebook. It's interesting to see the conversations that you're seeing out there from people who don't play a lot of the Final Fantasies prior, or who have, or who are playing this, and there's people on both sides playing this being like, this is kind of fucking weird. A lot of people are like, this game's way too fucking easy generally. They're like, there's no causality for death. Like you're just breezing through it, and stuff like that. Everybody agrees story's pretty awesome, but like the combat is literally the conversation on both sides of everything from what I've been seeing as well too. So.
See, Brent, I would actually disagree with you there, because you can say this is what Final Fantasy is now. This is what it is now. It is this now, but that's because it's changed so much. So, yes, you can say it is what it is now, because it has changed a lot. Octopath Traveler might not be as popular as Final Fantasy, but I have a feeling Square Enix is pushing out Octopath Traveler. Let
me ask you this.
Hold on. They're doing this because they want to satiate the fucking Final Fantasy crowd. Like, hey, here's your game now.
It's the name.
Here's your name. I understand that, but that's where maybe Square Enix is going about this wrong. They're pushing out these Octopath Travelers games, which have more in common with Final Fantasy 1 through whatever, and so that's why they're pushing it. It might not be as popular as Final Fantasy now, but if they continue to push Final Fantasy in this direction, which is a stark departure from what Final Fantasy was, Octopath Traveler will continue to grow and get more popular because those Final Fantasy fans want that game.
How much would Zelda sell if they turned it to a turn-based fucking game? What do you think that would happen to the crowd then?
And they wouldn't be all going, oh, this is fucking Zelda now. They sure as hell wouldn't say that. They sure as hell wouldn't say that.
They
would say that.
So why isn't Octopath called Final Fantasy? They don't have enough faith in that style of game anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like that turn-based style. They feel like that and again, maybe it's the type of gaming that we've come from, because in the old days or whatever it was, games were slower paced. We don't have that time anymore, and they're literally selling the name on a game that you can play more fast paced to keep everybody's mind rolling with this actiony combat. Hey, by the way, we got the Devil May Cry guys in there to make it chaotic and crazy, big fucking battles. So if that's the case, then put Final Fantasy back on the fucking Octopath Traveler, because that's what that is Final Fantasy more than what this is.
And Brian, I mean, and again, I'm not attacking you, Brian. I respect your opinion on stuff, Brian, and I respect your involvement in this community. You're a valued member of this community, and you always are here, and you're always supportive, and you always share your thoughts, and I appreciate that. But even like earlier this week, you mentioned that you hadn't played many of the first 6 or 7 Final Fantasy games, so you can't really say this is what Final Fantasy is now, because you've been playing more into the evolution of how it's changed. Had you played Final Fantasies 1 through 6 or whatever, I think then you'd be like, wow, this has changed, and this is Final Fantasy now because it has changed so much. That's the only reason I'm saying that. I'm not saying you're wrong. And again, I don't have a problem with people liking this game. I like this game. I think it's fucking awesome. I have a really good time.
At the end of the game, I'm enjoying it too. So that's the.
But I just think it's all about context and perspective. And somebody who has played a lot of the Final Fantasy games from the beginning and it has seen how much it has changed and what Final Fantasy is now, I think his perspective is a little bit different than yours, because you already said earlier, you haven't really spent a lot of time with those earlier Final Fantasy games that made Final Fantasy. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying he has a different perspective because he has a lot of experience with the original Final Fantasy of what Final Fantasy was. That's all I'm saying.
And it's like I said, it's interesting in these conversations, these groups on Facebook from all sides of it as well too. There are people who are fine with the evolution and people that played the old ones and they're playing it, and there's some of them are liking it. Some are like, it's great story, but like everybody's like it's either too easy or the combat's like a little kind of messy.
It is an easy game. Brian mentioned that earlier. He said this game is not challenging.
I mean, that's what
the first time, like one of the first times I died is when I came across the fucking hunt creatures. There's like exotic creatures that you come into or that you come across that are like wanted or some shit. There's like bounties for them. And like I went up against one and I got wrecked. I was like, oh shit. That was the first time I was like, oh, well, I better be. At this point, man, I let Torgo do most of the work, set up all the enemies for me to beat the shit out of them. And it's just like, it's not a difficult game. And for an action RPG, which this is clearly going for, it's not challenging at all.
If the game has so much faith in its combat, why does it set you up so easy with
I
icons?
I don't think their ideal of combat is making it difficult. It's about the spectacle. It's about being just fucking insane, which it is, and that's very thrilling.
Yeah,
but you're removing a lot of the difficulty and going for more bombastic sensationalism, and that's what they're going
because
for.
There's been a couple bosses I've come to on Octopath Traveler 2 where I've died a couple times. I'm like, okay, I got to rethink where I'm coming from, right? Which is why it's, why those are fun. I love kaiju, so I like the icon battles.
Icon battles are fucking
that's gnarly as shit as well too. But I'm just like, they clearly don't feel like they can stick the name of Final Fantasy on those kind of games anymore, because I think as games are such a Hollywood thing and everybody's playing them,
I think in order to reach a wider audience,
so call it Final Fantasy X story. Don't call it. Pay homage to where it came from. Let it keep,
because if it has Final Fantasy in the title, it's gonna sell. You don't have to put the number into it, because that kind of sets a precedent. And like you said, if this were just called Final Fantasy, holy shit, then I'd be like, oh yeah, it lives up to it. It's holy shit. It's fucking awesome. It's fun. But by alienating the diehard, I don't even want to say diehard. I'm saying long-time Final Fantasy fans that understand what made Final Fantasy special at the beginning. You have alienated them. You really have.
And I think, like, again, it's sold 3 million in 4 or 5 days, and everybody's touting this, this too.
I think Ford makes a good point. Go ahead.
But like, if they'd have put it on another system, would it have? Because 15 did 5 million in about the same amount of time.
Now there was a story that came out this week that in Europe, those hard numbers were physical copies. It also sold 56% or more of its sales were on digital.
Right.
So we don't even. This thing might actually have sold incredibly well.
We just don't know the numbers.
We just don't know the digital numbers yet, all across the board.
Okay. So
Ford said this one. I think it's that, as well as the amount of following they've gained from their MMO community who want a more action-oriented game. I think that's a really good point, because obviously Final Fantasy XIV is a massive game, and from what I've played now, I can see that in this game, and I can see the appeal why it would bring those people.
I would also debate that. While there are MMOs, the combat's more like turn-based than it is this, because you have cooldowns on your powers.
You
Well, you do
yeah.
in this too, but you can also do all kinds of different things in between as well too. You have a lot of different options. The combat between this and the MMO, I feel that is more because again with your cooldowns you have to.
And obviously, in MMO, you can't make it turn-based. That's really difficult to do an online game.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like to me, the combat feels less like 14 than like something of the old days kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. No. I do think 14 is more about the spectacle of the battles as well. I mean, look, yes, you have cooldown timers, but when you're going for spectacle, you can't slow shit down with turn-based actions. If you want to have bombastic and wild stuff, it's got to be sensational. It has to be exciting and thrilling. And I'm not saying tactical combat can't be thrilling and exciting for that audience, but in order to reach a wider audience, they have to make things more just explosive.
It's funny because Octopath Traveler, while there's things I could criticize about that too compared to even the old style of those kind of games, but like the combat in them, has added some some interesting like ways to make the combat less bored, like just waiting for a chance to do your power. Like I mean, like the characters have better job abilities. There's different like almost like limit breaks or how you can get your battle points, things like that. Octopath Traveler, in my opinion, even compared to even Bravely Default, which Bravely Default is really leans into the old school style of that. Octopath Traveler has done a really good job of kind of modernizing that style of combat. So my question again, what would happen if you slap Final Fantasy on that?
Right.
And tighten the story a little bit better, then how would that sell?
Cuddles got me. He said, at the time of the writing, which is roughly 1 week after the initial release of Final Fantasy XVI, the developers of Square Enix revealed that over 3 million copies of the game have been sold. This includes digital and physical sales on PlayStation 5. So I stand corrected. I thought maybe the article I read was before they confirmed that it included both. I thought it was just 56. They counted the 3 million as part of like the 44% that were physical, and then 56% would be more. So I stand corrected. But no, I mean, like, look, man, I just think that when you alienate your primary audience, it's like anything, dude, whether it's movies, TV shows, Halo. Whenever you alienate your audience, your hardcore fan. I hate using hardcore because people associate hardcore with like just they're crazy. But you're diehard fans. And I mean, the same people that sit there and say, oh, they're just crazy fans. Once something they love is attacked, then they turn into a crazy fan. It's just like you're doing the same thing, but only because you're not passionate about the thing that they're passionate about.
Yeah, and the old me, honestly, like after playing 10 so many years ago, the old me that back then, I wouldn't even played this. I wouldn't even looked at it.
Oh wow!
No, I would have been like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
What's more offensive, the emo hero or the combat in this game? Gun to your head.
Definitely the emo protagonist.
Again, Cherry, that is nothing against you enjoying the game. He's just stating his opinion
me fucking
of
insane. Yeah, Titus drove me insane.
Brian says, I think the difference is that this franchise has been around so long that they can't rely on just the niche fans that 30 years later.
Really? Because Zelda's still doing it? It's just, I mean, Ocarina changed it to where the camera's behind him, so Ocarina's still doing it. So if they turn that turn-based, how would that sell?
I'm not gonna lie, actually, and honestly, I was more. I never like. Look, I'll be the first to admit, I was never a huge Zelda guy.
No,
but I did like the older versions much more than I like this one. I did like. Look, man, I know this probably makes me like the worst fucking critic ever, but Tears of the Kingdom bored me just as much as fucking Breath of the Wild. I've moved on from it, and I'm just like, cool, man. I can build an AT-AT if I want to put the time into it, but it's a boring ass world, and even as much as the dungeons are cool. They're fun to solve, but overall, it's just not fucking gripping me. Like now, Diablo 4? Shit, man, I go into the shitter at work now, and I'm fucking on that ally just getting a quick dungeon in. I just can't do it, man. Zelda brings on new fans throughout the years. Breath of the Wild sold 30 million copies. Those are new fans, not the same fans from the 90s. No, and like I said, man, it's just I just can't. I'm struggling with Breath of the Wild. They're just not fun. But I know I'm completely different, so. 7 has sold 14 million copies. 16 won't sell 14. No, does the 14 million include PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4 only, or does that include the PC as well? Because if it's just PC and PS5, then maybe it's more in line with the PS5 version. And maybe once they do release it on PC, it'll get somewhere close to 14 million. But right now, it's only on one console where it's also on PC. So I'd be curious to know where that's at. Final Fantasy 16 is console will not sell a ton. I mean, that's always the issue with it. And games are way more popular. I mean, dude, it is difficult. He's not wrong. Games are more. I mean, every week there's something coming out.
Well, I mean, 15 sold 5 million copies in this about the same amount of time as this sold 3, but it was also released on Xbox at the same time. You know.
Well, I mean, it was on 16. Yeah, that's right. It was on. I keep forgetting that was on Xbox.
Yeah, it came out at the same time.
Forgot that.
It sold 5 million copies in around roughly the same time.
But I mean, look. Either way, I mean, whether you're somebody that's what we value out of this game is going to be subjective, and it's going to depend on our experience with the franchise. Again, I am like the opposite of Tone. I have not spent a lot of time with Fantasy. I don't discredit what he thinks. I do think that because if I discredited him, he could be like, well, you're full of shit for not giving Indiana Jones a chance. I know what I want from an Indiana Jones movie. I haven't gotten it from the last couple entries. He knows what he wants from a Final Fantasy game. He has not gotten that in the last couple entries. So, I mean, it's all about perspective. I don't have an issue with Final Fantasy 16, but I don't have the experience that he does with the entire franchise. Him and I will agree it's a great story, and it's fun. Him and I will be different because I don't have any context to say, well, it shouldn't be a numbered Final Fantasy. He has the context and the experience with those games and to be able to sit there and say, I don't think this should be a numbered one. And I don't think he's wrong because there's been enough spin-offs in a lot of franchises. Metal Gear had a couple that kind of branched. What was the one? Metal Gear Rising? That was nothing like a Metal Gear game. So, I mean...
That's a whole can of worms topic,
But they did a good job by separating that and not giving it a number. It's just fucking spin-off. Metal Gear Rising, nothing like Metal Gear, but there you go. So, I mean, it's just like I want to get people's thoughts on this. I think it's a very good conversation. I think there's a lot of good different perspectives on things. And I like that Brian's and I'm with Brian, man. Like, I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a really exciting game, combat-wise and story-wise. But I'm sure if I would have had a lot of time with Final Fantasies 1 through 6 or 7, I would probably have different feelings about it. But you never know. There's probably some people who have played all those games and like, I don't mind that it's evolving. It just really fucking depends on the person, and that is why we have these conversations. I think it's a good conversation to have, and I appreciate his opinion. I appreciate all yours opinion, and I know my opinion is shit because I haven't completed a Final Fantasy game. This will be the first one I complete, Tom. This will be the first one that I see credits for because I really have to see it because this shit is fun. The icon battles, the story. I'm going to see this one through to the end.
Hey, we got a mature-rated Final Fantasy.
Dude, that's the one thing I like about it, man.
Wild.
Like, there's I remember when we did the demo, and they're like, "Fuck, shit," and people were getting their throat. I was like,
thought
"Damn,
I'd see the day.
That's fucking hot."
Wild as fuck. Yep.
That's hot.
Yep.
All right, y'all. So for next week, I think is it still up in the air, or we're not going to call it yet.
We might not do a show next
week.
We
might not. I'm going to be like I said, I'm going up north for Guys Weekend. I got to leave on Thursday, which means I got to pack on Wednesday. But
after I sign off in this house, I don't know what my
we may try. Forge, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the resubscribes tonight. You guys are amazing. We appreciate your support. We love you. You're the reason we do this because you're here and you're part of the conversation and you share your thoughts, and it's awesome. Because Brian, my kids are both playing baseball now, and on Tuesday, my youngest has a game at 5:45, which is a little bit after I get out of work, and then the oldest boy has one at 7:20, and that goes until 10 o'clock. So it's going to be really difficult to get everything packed. And even on Monday, I'm not going to have all my shit in my car. So, but if that changes, if Tone and I are able, we're seeing where the week is. If we're able to get in a Mission Impossible viewing, because if I'm able to sneak away for a game, I might go see Mission Impossible on Tuesday if Tone's able to go see it. If that's the case, we'll be back next Wednesday talking about Mission Impossible, and we'll do a Secret Invasions mid-season talk. A lot of underwhelmed folk on social media when it comes to Secret Invasion. Mm-hmm. Even I think Crash said he was a little kind of underwhelmed in the Discord. Mm-hmm. So, but I feel like that's a conversation for another day. So possibly next Wednesday, not looking great, but we'll let you guys and girls know for sure in the Discord. If it doesn't happen next week, the following Wednesday, we will be back, and we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about. If that's the case, I am going to try to go see Mission Impossible and Insidious. I might go see Insidious this weekend because I am a huge fan of the Insidious movies. Really excited for that drop. And so we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about, whether we go live next Wednesday or the Wednesday after. But
just a busy month ahead, man.
It's tough, you guys. And like I said, I would love to be here every Wednesday, but the thing of it is, man, my kids are getting older, so they're getting involved in more stuff. And as much as I love being here with you guys, I have to be there for them. I want to be there for them, and I want to be a part of those moments. I don't want to miss out on it. And that's the bitch. If we did this full time, if this was our job, I'd be here and I'd be happy about it. But it's not my full-time job. I only have a limited amount of time to hang out with my family, and I definitely want to be there, especially my oldest. This is his first time playing organized ball, and he is such a fan of baseball. I want to be there for his games to kind of coach him up and keep him confident. So that is why the month of July is going to be a little shaky. But once we get into August and we get into the fall, things will simmer down a little bit. Football is on the weekends, so that won't bother the week too much. So we'll kind of roll with it. We'll see what happens. But we appreciate your support. We appreciate you putting up with us. And always, man, we appreciate you guys and girls being here every Wednesday. You would have more time if you didn't put 36 hours in. I'd have more time if I didn't put like fucking 72 hours into Diablo 4.
God, I wish I had the time to put more into either of those right now.
Man, I tell you, dude, it's tough. But no, my kids will always come first. And and if I have to cut back on a couple episodes, it's not a shot to you guys and girls. We appreciate your support. But I only get one chance with these kids when they're young, and I'm not going to miss any of that stuff. So, but hey, that's going to do it for tonight's show. We appreciate each and every one of you guys and girls being here, commenting, talking about it, sharing your thoughts, being passionate about things that you love. That's why we love this conversation. That's why we love your perspectives, and we appreciate you guys and girls being here. If you're listening on iTunes or SoundCloud, make sure you share it. Maybe write a nice little review about why you like the show, or just hit 5 stars if you think we deserve 5 stars. Don't do any fake 5-star shit, because that doesn't give me any incentive, and it drives me when I see that people really, really enjoy the show. Tone, what do you got?
As always, like you said, man, we appreciate you guys being able to show up when you can. It's summertime. We're busy. This house coming next week. I don't know what my weeks and evenings are going to start looking like over the next couple months here. I'm definitely going to be much busier as well, too. You've got a lot of stuff on your plate. We all got a lot of stuff on our plate, right? So we appreciate you. Yes, Brian, appreciate the discourse for sure. Good conversations. Very passionate about Final Fantasy and clearly about you and Indiana Jones. So some good back and forth as always, guys. We love you guys. Don't forget, as always, check out Monday nights. You got to check 7 Dungeons at 7 p.m. going live, spinning that yarn, telling those great D&D tales. Check out King Cuddles. He's doing a lot of Diablo lately. I believe he finally hit 100. He did hit 100, so he's going to be on a statue, I think, somewhere. Or maybe they're going to make a statue of him. But also check out Sunday nights.
I'm going to make a statue of him new. It's going to be the David statue.
Ooh. Cuddles Wrestling Federations on Sundays when he's able to. Like I said, we're all really busy. He lives on the East Coast. He's got beach life going on. There's a lot of things going on. As well too. Half-Ass Beer Review, make sure to check him out. He pings the Discord 2 or 3 times a week. The YouTube for all those craft beer reviews. Yours truly's been on a lot recently. A lot of bits going on. He's really finding his niche in some of the stuff he's doing. We're having a blast doing those. But no, we can't thank you guys enough for being here, supporting our friends and partners as well too. You guys are great. It's good discourse. It's good conversation. We get passionate. We love what we do. We're all huge nerds. We have a lot of fandoms, and some of us will die in those hills if we need to as well. But we appreciate at the very least having people that will conversate with us. So thank you.
That will do it for tonight's show. We will let you know in the Discord how next week pans out. I mean, right now it's leaning towards no, but that's just because shit going on.
Yeah.
But if not next Wednesday, which will be the 12th, we will be back on July 19th. We'll have a lot of stuff to talk about then. We appreciate your support. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Good night, everybody.